sit down, shut up, strap in, jump off, get your Crocs on, whatever they say.
Here we go.
It's time for more RageSelect podcast here. RageSelect. I'm Jeff.
I'm Blake.
Blake, did you link your PSN ID to the podcast before we started?
I didn't. I didn't. Oh, but that's okay. I mean, there's no PSN in my state, so it's fine.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then that's all right. Actually, it was funny. We did get all this stuff, and then today I read a story where it's just like, actually, if you can't do that, I just have to kick you out of the podcast.
Yeah.
now.
So you're leaving by
delisting the podcast. Anyway, we will get to that. There is some.
I have
shit.
a lot to say.
There is some shit this week, you guys. There is some absolute and total.
Yeah, you're in for a treat this week.
Yeah, it's we're really putting the rage in the RageSelect podcast this week.
Well, actually, before we jump in, is that why you've called it RageSelect? I've never actually asked you.
It's a secret that I have said like maybe once in public. I think it's really easy to figure out, but people have asked me for a long time, and then I played the coy boy, and I'm like, ooh, it's a secret. I'm not going to tell you.
I love it. You're like, pay me more. I'll tell you none.
Yes. It's really disappointing. Is the problem is that at this point saying it would just be like a big like.
Let's keep the lore. Let's just keep the mystery.
Yep. It's actually my last name. Is RageSelect. It's
Jeff
Belgian.
RageSelect. Okay.
Jeffrey RageSelect. No. We got a lot of rage today on the podcast. I got like the first half of the links on my thing are just the same story from a bunch of different directions.
Your Chrome is going to pass out.
It is. Yeah. You know what? I used to try to use Opera instead. Because it was like a little bit better at handling all the tabs, but then
I feel like that's Chrome with a turtleneck.
Yeah, but then it started not being as good at handling tabs, and I was like, well then fuck it. I guess
why
I'll
would I
use,
do yeah.
I'm gonna put 32 additional gigs of memory in my system and just use Chrome. So hey Boo, but before we get to the stuff, I watched a movie today.
Oh shit.
Actually, last week I was gonna watch that Tales of the Empire thing on Disney Plus.
Okay.
They put out, it was like, they had like Tales of the Jedi and like these little 15-minute things.
Okay.
And they made one that was like Tales of the Empire. And I got 2 episodes into it and I was like, who the fuck is this character that they're talking about? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is Ahsoka shit again. Like, I don't want to watch Star Wars Rebels, and apparently Disney it does not care for people like me. They're like, you either are going to watch Star Wars Rebels to understand who these people are, or you could just get the fuck out of here, and we don't give a shit. So,
Star Wars oversaturation. I feel like we talked about Star Wars in a recent video that we did too. Oh no, it was where we were playing May the 4th.
Oh, yeah, we played a Patreon video for Rebel Assault 2.
Yes.
But what I actually found out was it was only in the theaters 2 weeks ago, but they put that Abigail movie on VOD like yesterday or the day before. So
that movie's hit the streaming so quick these days.
Yeah.
Ever since
Well,
COVID.
I think it's one of those movies where they realize it's not going to have a lot of legs in the theater. It's going to be like, horror folks are going to go see it in the weekend, and you could probably keep the momentum, like the momentum is going down and get a little bit of a boost back up again by just immediately putting it out on VOD.
Like, we could get a sequel, guys. Come on, keep it going.
So I'm going to be a little like cagey because I wish that. See, I'm in a real pickle, Blake. Real pickle. The trailer for Abigail gives away way too much about Abigail. There's a reveal in this movie. It's a horror movie. It's an ensemble cast. It's got the lady that was Lisa Frankenstein and Lisa Frankenstein. I really like that. I really like her. She's cool. It's about a bunch of hardened criminals who kidnap a little girl and they take her to this house, and that's about as much as I'm gonna say. And then there's like some shit that happens. The thing is that the trailers for Abigail showed that shit happening directly. And it was like, and then I was watching the movie and I was like, oh, it's like 40 minutes until that shit pops off. So there's like all this setup in the movie.
So they've killed the momentum of the film.
To this big like, oh shit, what is happening here?
Yeah.
That would have been better. However, the problem that I've had this problem for a while, is like, I don't know if I would have watched this movie if they hadn't have told me in the trailer that some shit was going to happen, because I think I might have gotten like confused and bored and turned it off, and not at 30 minutes, or knowing me, Jeff from Rage, like 38.5 minutes, and people would have been like, if you watch it for 1 minute more, you would have seen some shit, but you were just like,
you just passed out too early. Nope.
So I guess I'm here to say I think it's worth watching. It's a real kind of like pulpy kind of action gore kind of horror thing. Like it's not, it's not Skinamarink or anything.
Yeah.
Like it kind of reminded me a little bit of like John Carpenter's Vampires, or like From Dusk Till Dawn, or like
I like vampires.
like action, kind of action haunted house. And it was eminently watchable. It was like 90 minutes long, which I'm super down with.
90 minutes or
movies.
less, baby. That's what I love my movies at.
Yep. Solid performances all around.
You talked about the trailer of this, and it made me think too about how it is important as a story for movies to build that. And Terminator 2 is a perfect example where back in the day, the trailers showed, or most trailers, depending on if you saw it, did not show Arnold was the good guy, right? Spoiler alert, right? But the hallway.
Hey, I haven't watched.
Wait a second. Wait a second. And then the hallway scene where Arnold actually like helps John Connor.
Right.
That's when you're like, oh, whoa. That is important, but I understand what you're saying, which is like, hey, if there's no intrigue to begin with, why would I watch this? It's almost like you have to watch a ton of movies to then see all the gems. So yeah, I get it.
It depends on. I think it depends for me. Is like I've got like one movie a week in me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna watch one movie. I'm playing video games. I'm watching anime. I don't have time for every fucking thing.
I put on a lot of things, but I never really watch. You know what I mean? Like you never really watch it. Yeah.
So like I gotta choose one movie, and that was why we were talking about the contestant. Like last week, I had Monkey Man.
Yes, I've seen that.
And Love Lies Bleeding, which was kind of this weird, like ladies working out, lesbian crime. I don't even know. I watched the trailer and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But the thing is that I was like, I just don't know. I'm so tired of getting to the end of the movie and being like, that was all right. That was fine. And so I went to I hate Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes has one page called like /movies at home, and it literally shows you. I got tired of websites that were trying to like gatekeep. What's new on VOD this week? Log into Tom's Hardware to find out. I'm like, Tom, you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I ain't logging into shit. Just give me the information.
Yeah, I'm just looking for dates over here. I don't need your review of Love Lies Bleeding. I just need to know what's out this week.
I'll constantly like refresh your page over and over again if you just put that shit front and center.
Yes.
And don't put anything else around it.
Like, a long time ago, there was a website that I used to go to that was nothing but like, here's what actually came out on Netflix this week. And I was like, thank you, because Netflix sure as shit is like new releases, and I'm like, I watched that 4 months ago.
Yeah,
Netflix.
like stop trying to you're just skewing your own shit. Stop it.
Yeah. So I think that Abigail, because it's a horror movie, it might end up on Shudder. Or it's also was it Warner Brothers or was it Universal? Who's the Universal streaming service?
Is it Paramount Plus?
Is it Paramount Plus?
Or no, is that Universal's Peacock maybe? I don't know.
Whatever it is, it'll
Universal
probably
NBC.
If it's, let's see, Universal. So
yeah,
I don't know which one is Universal, but the thing is that I actually do find that like Peacock and Paramount Plus and like those, they do tend to shove new, especially Peacock, man, is just like, just get up there. We need content.
Hey, WWE, you still good? No, we're moving to Netflix. Fuck you.
Yep.
Put them off the fucking page.
Yep. Just get it up there. So whatever it is, when it comes out, hey, what I would say is if you like vampire movies and you like action movies, go check this movie out when it comes on to whatever it comes on to. It's 90 minutes long.
I'm going to check it out.
Et cetera,
Every time that you suggest something, I go and check it out. I'm like, okay, this is very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, this one was a snack. Like it wasn't like high art or anything, but I never got my eyes, my TV where I watch movies is right next to my monitor, all my monitors, and right above all of my game consoles. So like I can always tell when something isn't keeping me because my eyes start drifting over.
Also, it's a little bit of motoring. This TV is rather it's a good size, right? And you're kind of really close to it. So for horror movies, it always makes me very uneasy to sit closer to a screen. You know what I mean? Because I like to brace for impact a little bit. I like to be front and center of that shit.
I'll tell you something, people, this is such inside baseball, but like I've got my couch and then there's my desk. And I would say right now, what'd you say?
Maybe
this is maybe like 2 feet, 2 feet and change. I'll move that thing like 12 inches closer when you leave to watch anime because I'm like, the closer to my TV I am, the bigger the screen is.
You got to get closer to the women. Yes, I understand. Speaking of anime,
you
My
watch
Hero.
Good? Oh, yeah.
Did you check out the new episode?
I did. I was going to wait until this week, and then I got drunk because last week.
You got
and
the
I was
itch.
like,
You're like, ah.
Well, I was watching the whole thing, and I realized that I had timed it so that I had one more beer left right when I got to the end of all the episodes that were out, and I was like, oh, I was going to save this for next week, and I was like, other Jeff was like, Jeff, you can watch it again next week. You can watch it this week.
Yes,
and you can watch it again next
That's
week.
what I'm going to do. Yes. So, spoiler, if you don't want to talk about My Hero, just go ahead and skip right through. But I will say, I am so excited about Stars and Stripes or whatever her name is. Legitimately, she can manipulate anything that she touches.
I like the idea that the number one American superhero basically has the power of like, and then I say what the rules are, and those are the rules.
Yeah, manipulation and corruption. I love it.
It's like Manifest Destiny, the superpower.
And the fact that like I was watching it with my buddy Paul, and it was like, hey, this episode legitimately is just one fight sequence.
Yeah.
And he said that he's read the anime, and it's like there's so much more to get through, and this is there's got to be another season coming out. Like there's just so much to get through, and that was like that fight isn't even done. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
It's like half of the beginning of a fight.
And then like the way that All For One is just like breaking down like how he actually understands like the weaknesses by I'm like,
it's crazy stuff.
I inject that into my veins.
No, it's great. This week, or so last week it started up, and then this Sunday is when Demon Slayer comes back.
Oh shit!
So starting next week, it's like every Friday I get My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer. I even did the list, and then there's all the and then everything else. Like there's all this other good stuff as well, but it's just like titans of anime, and then a bunch of other good shit.
Summertime.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep. And I'm super psyched today because I swear to God, we're going to talk about video games in a minute.
I'm talking video games.
It was like 90 degrees in Texas this week, and it sucked, and it was humid, and it was like, here comes the sun.
It felt like balls outside.
Yeah, and then like today, it's just been fucking like I don't go outside, and every time I step outside to smoke a cigarette, I'm just like, I wish I went outside more because it's really nice out right now.
Beautiful. Actually, it's kind of a hilarious of the dawn story, because it's like last night our power goes out, and I'm from the Midwest, so I've seen tornadoes before. A tornado hit my house growing up. So when I like suddenly everything gets quiet, during a storm, and I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And so I go out to the garage to throw something away, and I just hear like the garage door go, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go to the fucking hallway, and I've like just started to get the family together, and the lights go out, and thankfully it was just a lot of wind. It didn't
even rain that much.
It was
sprinkled a little bit over here at least.
Man, it was pretty heavy because it was a little bit north, but you catch those tail ends, and that's where the tornadoes are, and apparently San Marcos got hit really bad. So it's just but now it's the peaceful aftermath of just amazing weather, and it's like I don't think it's like 80 degrees. You get a wind, and it doesn't even feel hot, and it just feels like it's like a perfect picnic weather.
Absolutely. So what better way to celebrate than to sit inside and talk about video games in the air conditioning?
Never go outside. We don't need it.
Okay. This is big. We got two big stories to get through before we go on break. So we're going to start with Microsoft. Microsoft and Sony had some bad times, and we're going to start with Microsoft. So Microsoft.
Nintendo in the background goes, I didn't do shit.
Oh, no. Nintendo did some shit. It's just comparatively... It's like that thing where somebody tries to get away with something while something big is happening.
Yeah. They're like, I got you still.
Like, Nintendo confirmed there's going to be a Switch 2 this week. That's huge. But that's like down the line.
Yeah, but I feel like that's been in the works forever.
Yes, but they've been consistently like not confirming, like consistently saying like, we're not saying anything. They finally said like, yes, there's going to be one, and we're going to talk about it. But anyway,
okay.
Before we talk about that, Microsoft did some shit. Microsoft has closed 4 studios internally. Now, Microsoft has been on a buying spree for years, buying a lot of stuff, and they've got a lot of crazy studios. Like, people forget, like, before they bought Activision Blizzard, they bought not Bethesda, but ZeniMax. Like, ZeniMax owned a bunch of, like, ZeniMax was a holding company that Bethesda made to buy studios.
ZeniMax feels like a old school, like, TV channel that you had to, like, pay extra for, and that's adult. Like, what?
It's
like,
if you look through the distortion, you can see a boom from time
exactly,
to time.
like ZeniMax.
Like ZeniMax owns id Software. Like ZeniMax is like
conglomerate bullshit.
Yeah, and so when they bought ZeniMax, they didn't just buy Bethesda. They bought id. They bought Machine Games. They bought Tango Gameworks. They bought Arcane, and I think there was maybe one other I'm forgetting in there. Anyway, not anymore, because this week they shut down Arcane Austin, the makers of Prey and last year's disastrous Redfall game. They also shut down Tango Gameworks, which made The Evil Within, and the latest thing they made was Hi-Fi Rush. And then
both of those are good games.
Yeah. We'll get to that, because that's like the head scratcher here, right? Alpha Dog Games, they made a phone game called Mighty Doom that was like an auto scroller kind of thing with a little Doom Marine and unlocks and stuff, whatever. And then there was a studio called
I was thinking of Naughty Dog.
Oh,
my bad. Alpha Dog. Ooh.
And then there's a studio called Roundhouse Studios that was a support team for the Elder Scrolls Online that would help them make a lot of the expansions that have been keeping that game alive. So, yeah. All four of these, gone. Now, let's get this out of the way. We're not going to talk very much about Alpha Dog or Roundhouse. I mean, like, I'd said this last week. It's kind of shit, but I just want to own it. I'm much more interested in news about studios that make games that I care about.
Sure.
And Doom phone games, I don't even like.
The economy as it is not always, it's not fair, and seeing people lose their jobs is awful. But
yes.
The relevancy of news and the relevancy of what people want to hear is all what they want to talk about with these games.
I for me, it's kind of cynical, but it's like, oh, we're the guys that made the Doom shovelware phone game with microtransactions going to be like, oh, one of the greats, Alpha Dog. Oh, I love all their phone games with microtransactions.
I feel really bad that I confuse them with Naughty Dog now. I'm like, oh, shit.
And then we're not going to talk much about Roundhouse Studios, because that was kind of a mixed bag. A lot of that team got absorbed back into the Bethesda Elder Scrolls Online team. Like, they did cut personnel, but then they also like oozed up a lot of the good talent back in. So not as many people got laid off as before. But the other two are big, because Arcane Austin and Tango Gameworks. Okay. There's a lot of news about this, but I want to go into some specifics, because I think that a lot of times when people hear those names, they have a different idea in their head of what might actually be happening in the real world. So let me just lay out a few things here. So Arcane Austin, there's two Arcane studios. There's Arcane Lyon and there's Arcane Austin. Arcane Austin made Prey. They made the Prey remake. They made the expansion to Prey, which was called Moonfall. And then they made, and that was like kind of, I think they might have done the Dishonored Death of the Outsider expansion for Dishonored 2. Oh no, that was Lyon. Yeah, most of the stuff that Arcane has made has been done by Arcane Lyon. And so in between, a lot of the people that made that Prey game, which is universally beloved, but did not sell very well. It was not a blockbuster sales. It was like critically acclaimed. I fucking love it. I think it's great. It's like a very interesting game. I've been thinking about doing a sequential for it for a while, because it's just a very interesting game. But it was not a sales powerhouse. None of these were. Like, Dishonored was a very well-beloved game, but it wasn't like tearing the charts to shreds.
No, it wasn't like a BioShock or anything like that. Yeah.
You know, you've got like Wolfenstein Youngblood and Deathloop. I love those games, but like, again, I realize that those are niche games for Jeff, not like Breath of the Wild Call of Duty sales. And then the last thing they made was Redfall, which was a 4-player online PvE vampire game where it was like you had these 4 hunters and you were in this open world. It was online, it was PvE, it was open world, It had a battle pass. It was just the
Battle pass.
and the company. So I don't know if you know Prey very well, but like, do you know what a vent crawler is? It's like a Deus Ex or BioShock or System Shock or like Dishonored.
So is Prey the game where you're like you have like Native American instincts or something? Or
Okay, so yes, Prey. The original Prey was made by 3D Realms. That's what you're thinking of, where it's a Native American guy that goes into a portal for aliens. The second Prey is this like psychological, like horror kind of time loop game.
Is it completely different?
It's completely different.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Completely unconnected.
Okay, so we got to talk real quick. I was like, I don't want to play that game, Jeff. Like, I'm not even joking. I was like, oh, okay. I'm down for the other one, but oh my goodness.
No. I wouldn't suggest that. By the time Redfall came out, a lot of the people that were responsible for Prey had left Arcane Austin. Like, they got things kind of going, and then they were like, I don't know, we're leaving. Redfall's being an online multiplayer thing, even though this was not a company that was built to make that. This was they were like, this was not their strong suit, was a shooter. There are shooting elements in those games, but they were just not like that. Wasn't like for the first moment that it was released, I was like, I don't understand why Arcane is making this. They probably, a lot like Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, it's probably a very similar story where upper management got things rolling and then they were like, good luck, you guys. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm cashing out. Somebody moved up to take their place. Bethesda and ZeniMax were the ones that were pushing that game to get out because everybody had the dollar signs in their eyes for live service online Destiny PvE style games, and they wanted
how
something.
many of those are actually successful? I mean, that's just frustrating.
Like none.
Yeah,
because Destiny is failing. So, you know, it's again, they're jukebox heroes. They got stars in their eyes. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. So, Redfall, that company may not be the same company that you thought of, that people think of when they think of Arcane Austin. Like, it's possible that even if they were given unlimited funding, the next game that came out would have been not what people remembered them fondly for. I don't know. That's full conjecture. Tango Gameworks, on the other hand, was Shinji Mikami's company. The dude made like Resident Evil 2. I think Resident Evil 1, actually. Shinji Mikami has a history. There's a meme that was going all around online. First off, he's not a very public guy. He doesn't talk very much to the public, and so there was
he looks like he's in the Matrix in that picture.
Yeah, like a lot of people, like Hideki Kamiya. A lot of these people, it would be like, okay, he would work with them on, like, he would make a game, and then a really well-known producer would come in. What we know now to be well-known would be a junior who would then come in to make the sequel, and he would like oversee it, and then it would be great, and then that person would go on to have their own career.
It was basically like an apprenticeship, right, or something.
Yeah.
Sort of,
so then Shinji Mikami would go make another game. Like, he'd make Resident Evil. You know, he'd make like one of the people who worked under him went on to make Devil May Cry, and then like really big stuff. I wish I could find that little thing that I found before.
Oh, those things of like the chart of like what actually relates to his lineage, as it were.
So anyway, he founded. This was a story last week that I had and I cut. Last week there was a story where there's an interview with him, and he doesn't give that many interviews. And he was talking about how he made Tango Gameworks to do exactly what I just said. He wanted to start up a company, make a game that was Evil Within, make it was his new Resident Evil game, and then he wanted the people under him to make the sequel, and then they would go off and do their own thing. They would become popular. You know, they would get the experience. They would make a good game. They'd have the cachet to go off and do their own thing.
Right.
And what happened was exactly that, because Ikumi Nakamura, who I don't know if you know who that is. She was this lady. She was at an E3. She came out on stage and introduced a game called Ghostwire Tokyo in kind of very broken English, and was very bubbly and excited.
How far back was that? I feel like I remember that.
It was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, I definitely watched that. Yeah.
She did the lion's share of the work on Ghostwire Tokyo, and then she left and she has her own studio. The Evil Within 2 was made by the guy that made Hi-Fi Rush. So Shinji Mikami made Evil Within 1, and then this guy came in to do the lion's share of the work on Evil Within 2, and then he went and made Hi-Fi Rush, which was like universally beloved, BAFTAs, all this shit. I gotta speed this up. But the thing is that Tango Gameworks was barely a company for like 6 months, I think he said, before they got bought by ZeniMax. And in an interview that came out last week, he literally said, like, once we got bought, I wasn't the owner of the company anymore. I was shoved into like a producer role where they love to trot me out at events and they put producer on my door, but I didn't have the power to basically veto something that ZeniMax wanted to do. I didn't have the ability to say no. And it seems like for a lot of Tango Gameworks, they got to make the games they wanted to make. Like they made 4 games, and even though Ghostwire Tokyo, most of them were very good. Anyway, that brings us to today. So these two companies have been dissolved. Now, I think that if you look at it, we're going to get into some of the bullshit. I personally think, and I'm going to let you talk in a minute because I've been rambling.
No. I'm not. I am absorbing all of the information because I am interested. Arcane Austin, Arcane Lyon.
I think that no matter what Microsoft says, Redfall, it didn't sell. It was a flop. It was basically like in development before that company even got bought by Microsoft. Microsoft looked at the game and knew it was bad, didn't stop it from coming out. It flopped. It sucked and it didn't make any money. And like they're gonna, we have some quotes where they're just gonna be like, "Oh no, it was fine. It was all good. It was great. We love having people with Microsoft." No. It didn't make money, and they axed them. And then they're gonna say the exact same thing in these articles that I have about Hi-Fi Rush, because Hi-Fi Rush was like a 10-hour rhythm action game. It's fucking amazing. I played it like at the end of or the beginning of this year because it came out last year, and I just kind of doing my cleanup. I did like RoboCop and that and Sea of Stars and stuff.
Oh, RoboCop's so much.
Amazing. It's got original music from like Nine Inch Nails in it and like the Black Keys and shit. Like, and then like it's a rhythm third-person action game where you have to attack on the beat, and then everything is music related, and it's just fucking amazing. Like the animations are so good. Again, won a BAFTA, won a bunch of stuff at the Game Awards, critically lauded. I get the impression that it didn't sell a lot because it was on Game Pass, right? So, like, people probably bought, you know, if you're going to sell a game for $40 and you're going to sell a month of Game Pass for $10, people are going to buy a month of Game Pass, play this 8-hour game, and then go, that was fun.
Well, it also tells me they're not looking at metrics to say, hey, how many people have subscribed and stayed subscribed because of Hi-Fi Rush? You can't quantify, like you can't figure that out, right? Like,
yeah, it's
sort of, but it would be so much.
Well, Microsoft put like 5 games on Game Pass this week, right? How do you know which one did the thing, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Also, the other thing, and I don't know who made this decision, but Hi-Fi Rush was also a thing. It came out last year, and it was like part of a Microsoft showcase, and it was like, hey, look at this trailer for this game. And we were all like, oh, that game looks good. And they were like, and it's out today. And we're like, oh, no. Oh, fuck. Shit.
Yeah.
So they didn't even have like this buildup of hype or anything for it. It just like shadow drop, which I'm like, I'm fine with that. Like, don't keep me on the hook.
Like, no marketing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just
don't hype me up for 6 months. Like, just be like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. When can I buy it? They're like, now. And I'm like, great.
Well, it's almost, it's banking on the idea that you don't need marketing, though, which is kind of a crapshoot, like, because you could completely fail at that point, and then you're like, marketing is already behind, right?
Yep. So Microsoft is going to say a bunch of dumb shit in these articles. I'm almost certain the answer here is
Let's
that
see
it didn't
how
make,
dumb it is.
It did make money. So first off, Microsoft, you might say, well, what was the reason given for this? And there's a lot of different reasons, but I could tell you what Microsoft has said. And there's so many of these articles that I'm not going to just keep reading shit from them. So basically, what was the thing they specifically said? They said something interesting. It was a lot of business bullshit. Let's see. With the consolidation of our Bethesda studio teams so we can invest more deeply in our portfolio of games and new IP, a small number of roles across, and that's the corporate, will be impacted. These changes will be key pillars. As we look to the future, there's an impressive lineup of games on the horizon. In 2024 alone, we've got blah, 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 blah. they basically talk about how they want to make smaller games with more impact and more like cachet, right? And it's
like, do we have to make everything cheaper? Like, that's the thing. It's basically just we want to cut costs and make cheaper games.
Well, so the thing, okay, the meta narrative, actually, I probably should have done this before we get here. The meta narrative here that I've seen mentioned like 2 places, and I think that this is probably what ends up being the reason for this, is that when I say Microsoft, I'm actually talking about the Xbox division. And they just completed a $69 billion sale to purchase Activision. And I think that Microsoft executives are looking at Xbox executives and going like, you know, they bought ZeniMax for $7 billion. And they're just like, guys, we have put like billions into this. Where is the return? Like, the sales are not high. This Game Pass thing, you know, is like, when you do have a runaway hit and it's on Game Pass, well, everybody has it on Game Pass. Who knows how well Starfield is doing, right? It was on Game Pass. Like, so I think that some of this is that Microsoft executives are basically telling Xbox executives, like, you guys got to cut the fat. You have to reduce your operating expenses so that the shareholders, so that you get that artificial bump.
Line must go up.
Right. And that the shareholders are happy. Because they said a lot of shit that doesn't make any sense. You know?
Like, we need games like Hi-Fi Rush.
Right. As they say, like, oh, you know, we really want to see, like, you know, really well-crafted, smaller, independent games with a lower budget that people really love. And it's like, that's that
company you
game,
just,
you know, or like, one of the statements that they made was they said that they were spread too thin, like peanut butter on not enough bread. And I'm like, you did this. Like, you acquired,
you said make a sandwich.
You acquired 25 like companies over the last 3 years. What do you mean you're spread too thin? Like, every one of these companies still has their management structure in place, right? Because they're not absorbing them directly. They're like subsidiary studios. Bethesda still has fucking Todd Howard in the driver's seat. Like, up until, you know, recently, Shinji Mikami until last year was still the CEO of Tango Gameworks. The guy from fucking Arcane Austin was on Twitter talking about how nobody gave him any notice. He just found out like the day, like half the people just got fired remotely and just whatever, you're done.
Fuck.
Like, and so the idea is that they're just like, well, we just didn't have the resources to be able to handle this many studios. And it was like, well, why the fuck did you buy so many studios? You're like going to the store and buying $600 worth of produce, and then you're just like, half of it just went bad in my refrigerator before I could use it. And it was like, well, then buy less, asshole. Yeah. If you guys can't, like, instead of destroying studios that have a good track record for stuff that could, like, if a studio is independent and they put out a flop, they take a swing and a miss, and they put out a flop, and then like can't find any more funding because interest rates are high and VC firms are cagey right now. You know, the whole industry is going through a contraction, and then they go out of business. You know what? That sucks, but that happens. That happened before this year, and that will happen even when the industry starts to like level back out again. But this idea that we bought your company, like, and then fired everybody, like, I would have more respect if they were like, well, we've released Tango Gameworks into the wild. That's what happened with like IO Interactive. Like, they were owned by Square, and they were given the opportunity to like kind of buy themselves out from Square. And then they did, and then they've been doing fine since, right? Like, but to just fire everybody. I mean, I wonder if they all just go out to lunch and they're just like, all right, let's start a new studio. It's called Bango Bameworks. Yeah. Like
Marcane Moston.
Right, exactly. Arcane Houston.
Yeah. We'll just move.
Right, with blackjack and hookers.
I'll play that game.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Again, I feel like I've been talking a lot. Do you any thoughts on this? Like,
I mean, I think, you know, you've kind of said it best. It's just line must go up, and when that happens, people suffer. It's people being the employees and the people that get cut.
Yep.
But like, I hope, like you mentioned, that maybe they went to lunch and just said, you know what, fuck all this, we'll make our own company, and then they'll make a game, and then they'll get absorbed, and then this cycle of bullshit will just continue.
Yep. I mean, the other thing is that apparently Tango Gameworks had just got done pitching Hi-Fi Rush 2 to Microsoft.
Well, shit.
And Arcane Austin had basically said, like, hey, Redfall didn't work. Let us go back and make a single-player prestige, let us go back
to our wheelhouse.
Well, and the weird thing is that there's two Arcanes.
Yeah,
and they're both owned by Zembax. Yeah. There's Leon and then there's Austin. And Leon is currently making a Blade game. Like, they announced that last year during Summer Games Fest.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sounds perfect. I would love to play a Blade game that played like Dishonored, right? That'd be perfect. You give vampire powers. It did seem weird that you had Redfall and then you had Blade, and it was like, you guys have got vampire fever over there. But
you go to the studio, nobody's there in the daytime,
right? But yeah, it's just it's a real fucking nut punch, man. Like, why? The thing that's so disappointing about all of this is that, like, what was I looking at the other day? I was watching like a trailer for. There are plenty of companies out there. Like, this can't be an industry-wide thing because there are plenty of companies that are not having this problem, right? Like, I was looking at trailers for like new stuff that's coming out, and like, From Software hasn't cut like half their team or laid people off. Like, a lot of Japanese companies like have not had this same problem. This seems to be a relatively specific, like, publisher needs to get their revenue up.
It's a business strategy,
right? And so they're going to axe half of a team to lower the operating expense to get that up, but then that team's going to be shit, right?
Yeah.
You get half your team. I've been at places where half your team gets liquidated, and you know what happens from there? It sucks.
Yeah,
like,
it's every day. It's hell.
Yeah. Of course, I've also been in places where I came on right after half the team got axed. And everybody's like, oh, man, like 3 years ago here, it was great. And I'm like, I have no frame of reference. It's fine. Like,
oh, this is normal.
The other thing that's kind of let me just make
That's
sure.
why I made that comment earlier, which is like, oh, we need games like Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, it was Matt Booty in one of the things he said, we need smaller games that give us prestige and awards. And everybody's like the ones that
he's like, no, not that game. That game, I'm speaking other games other than that game. But.
Yeah. Also, there's some really strange. Okay, so Shinji Mikami came out and basically, like, this dude hadn't tweeted in like 4 months, and he tweeted like, Tango closed, sad, period. Like, which is about as much of a comment as you'll get from that guy.
My God, he's angry.
He's furious.
He's furious. You can see it.
There was what I was kind of interested in was there was a tweet from this guy called Dinga Bakaba, who's the chief of Arcane Leon, who, like, when this happened, he just went fucking all the way. This is absolutely terrible. Permission to be human. To any executive reading this, friendly reminder that video games are an entertainment/cultural industry, and your business as a corporation is to take care of your artists/entertainers and help them create value for you. Don't throw us into gold fever gambits. Don't use us as straw man for miscalculations/blind spots. Don't make our work environments Darwinist jungles. You say we make you proud when we make a good game. Make us proud when times are tough. We know you can. We've seen it before. For now, great teams are sunsetting before our eyes again, and it's a fucking gut stab. Leon is safe, but please be tactful and discerning about all this and respect affected folks' voice and leave room to be heard. It's their story to tell, their feelings to express. So,
I mean, damn, Dinga just fucking dropped the mic on that shit.
Yeah. The CEO of Arcane Austin basically just had a whole bunch, like, if you just want to be sad, you can go read his sad tweets talking about how, like, I just went and, like, hugged my friend that was this developer, and I don't know, I'll see everybody on D&D night, but it's like the end of an era, and we had so much fun working here, and we did all this great work, and blah, 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 blah.
Until D&D night must go up, and then they have to just cut off half the party for no reason.
Let's see. One of the things that's really strange is that, God, so Redfall launched, and it was busted and fucked, and so Arcane Austin was trying to fix it. So there are two things that happen. One, Redfall is an always online game. So if you're not online, you can't be playing Redfall. Two, Redfall, like everything else, sold with a season pass. It was supposed to add 2 new hunters come October, as well as additional updates for new stuff. One of the big things that the Arcane Austin said was everybody didn't like the always online thing, and they were like, we're going to look at making it offline so you can play it offline. We're working on the code. Well, none of that now. It's all just like they just chopped it off halfway through. They didn't let them like finish or do any additional work. It's just like, nope,
just like straight up, like just like get out of your seat, go.
So one of the consequences of this is that offline mode will never be finished, and so once the servers get turned off, that game will be unplayable in the future. Also, Microsoft is giving people refunds because they're just not making the DLC that they promised when they fucking sold the game. Like, so if you bought the $100 collector's edition, it's like you're going to get $30 back from Microsoft because they can't make good on the season pass that you purchased.
I'm honestly surprised they have to do anything.
Well,
like the fact that like, oh, it never released. It's like, sorry, you still got a game.
It's a little much to take people's money and then just not straight up not deliver. So.
Well, I feel bad that I have to like have a compass there because I'm like, well, I'm not sure. I would expect a company just to be like, nope, sorry, we fucked up. But
go fuck yourself. Yeah. Oh, man. All right. So we have about 5 minutes left, and I don't think that we can do the Helldivers saga in 5 minutes.
Helldivers.
So let's tell you what. Let's do a couple of quick.
I'll just link your account real quick.
Quick lightning round stuff, and then we'll come back to it. So Riot Games has just instituted their Vanguard anti-cheat stuff for League of Legends. Vanguard is a see, I don't believe I have to talk about this shit so often. A kernel level process.
Oh my god!
Because
why are we doing that?
Well,
I know that like the cheating software.
For anybody who doesn't know, what this means is that this anti-cheat software is running at like the same level as like the shit that routes files to your hard drive, like really low level in the operating system. And the reason they're doing this is because if your software runs high enough up in the stack, you put the cheating software below it. So they basically like put the software as low as it could possibly go.
They went to the bottom of the fucking ocean.
Right. So that you couldn't put anything above it. Well, there's been a bunch of reports. It is unconfirmed. Riot says no. Reddit says yes. I don't know who to believe. That like... So the problem with running something at kernel level is if you fuck something up real bad... Oh, you can fuck shit up real bad. And so some people have reported having their PCs bricked. But,
like corrupted memory and shit?
Like won't turn on when they hit the power button.
Oh.
Part of this...
Well, though, they're not cheating, though.
They're not. Yeah, they're definitely not cheating. Part of this is... Blake, we're getting into the real weeds here. I don't even understand all this stuff. You know about UEFI and TPM 2.0? These are Windows 11 like
yes requirements to actually upgrade from the BIOS. Yeah.
These are security requirements that have to be built into newer BIOSes in order for basically your operating system to be able to do trusted like actions between the BIOS and the operating system.
They built a new bridge and they want you to cross it.
Right. And then apparently one of the problems, like somebody on Reddit is saying that like they had to shut down their system and then pull the CMOS battery until the CMOS started and then like turn it back on and then immediately enable UEFN or UEFI and TPM 2.0 because the thing is that they're triggering kernel level
the kernel
is doing operations that are then triggering, oh shit, something is really wrong with your computer. Shut it down and don't let it come back on. This computer is being abducted by Liam Neeson, right? Like it's being taken.
It's being taken over by a mob of just like, who the fuck are you? Like,
right.
Why are you coming into my house saying get out, get out, get out?
So Riot is saying that like they're looking into this, but they haven't found any like specific. They haven't found any specific instances where. Because you know the shit will happen, right?
Yeah, so they're like, there's no way you could prove that it was, and even if it was because whatever happened to begin with wasn't their, like, it wasn't their fault. Like, you know,
I mean,
that's what they're just gonna do.
Statistically speaking, when you have a big enough player base, right, you're going to roll out an update, and some people's video cards are going to fail because we're going to fail around that time anyway. They're going to be like, fucking World of Warcraft Classic killed my computer, and you're like, no. So,
they have to do a lot of stats with it.
But a lot of, you know, but on the other hand, this is what happens when you go swim into the kernel waters, right? Like,
stop fucking around and shit you don't want to be fucking around in.
Like, Blake, I saw a cheating setup one time where somebody pointed a camera at their screen and then they put a splice in. They put basically a splice in their input, like their keyboard, between like the keyboard and mouse. They put a like a T-junction that ran to like a Raspberry Pi that was hooked up to a webcam that would watch their screen and then just like make the aim adjustments for them by hijacking the mouse input, looking at where the player was on the screen, and then moving it the rest of the way to perfectly track. People will go crazy for this. There is no stopping it. Like, there's no kernel thing that could stop something like that, right? Like,
it's almost like the game AI is going to have to figure out, and maybe that's what they're going to do. They're going to use AI to try to figure out cheating or whatever.
Every time they do it, the first thing that happens, every time they try something like that, the first thing that happens is somebody who's really good at the game gets perma-banned.
Yeah.
And they're just like, no, I'm just really good at the game.
Fuck you, I defy physics.
So, I don't know. We'll see if anything comes of that. But, yeah. With that, we're at 45 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to talk a lot of shit about Sony. We talked a lot of shit about Microsoft. They're a bunch of greedy fucks.
You're getting yours soon, Sony.
Sony is no better, and we'll be talking about that in just a second.
We're going to take them out back and beat them up.
And we're back. And before we start shitting on Sony, because we have a lot of shit to give to Sony, I did want to briefly point out, I said this to you on the break, in the lead up to the Microsoft acquisition of a lot of these different companies, I kind of had a theory that I put out there a few times where it could actually be a good thing that these companies are getting bought by Microsoft, because they can have a flop, they could try interesting things, they could do not just sequel after sequel after sequel. I very well could be wrong. Like, the thing is that what we saw last week was some Embracer shit. I was never like a champion for it. I was always more like agnostic about just like, I don't know whether Microsoft buying these places is going to be good or bad. It could be good. Like, here's a scenario where it could be good, but this week we saw a scenario where it was very bad. So, like, who knows? You know, the two companies that got dissolved were companies that were making interesting original IPs that were not sequels, and they're just like, yeah, but we got an exciting lineup coming up with the new Indiana Jones game and expansions for Fallout 76 and expansions for Elder Scrolls Online and like a new season of Halo and a new Gears of War, and it's like,
but we wanted original gaming.
I wanted new stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, Sony, your time has come. Sony's been having a great time listening to me talk shit about Microsoft. Well, it's your turn now, fuckos.
Isn't it? It's weird to me how I'm both mad at who's the Helldivers 2 publisher. It's
Sony is the publisher.
I mean, not the publisher, the developer.
Arrowhead.
Mm-hmm. So I've gotten mad at Arrowhead.
Yeah,
and I've gotten mad at Sony. Mm-hmm. And during this time, it's interesting to me how Arrowhead escapes criticism to just be like, "Oh, it's okay." Like I honestly am upset because Arrowhead has done dumbfounded things to put themselves in this position.
I tell you what, by the time we get done with this story, you might actually think differently, because I found some stuff today that was very interesting.
Okay.
But let's start from the beginning.
First, the Earth cooled.
Yes. And then the Helldivers came. They fell from the sky with a major order to fuck shit up. So Helldivers 2, big success for everybody. Launched day and date, PS5 and Steam. That was amazing. One of the things that happened on Steam was you could just buy it on Steam. You could play the game. There was some interesting stuff going on there. I
actually had 5 of my friends buy Helldivers 2 because I was playing. Like, not solely because of me, but just because of the hype.
Yep.
And it was the half of them were on PS5.
Yep.
Right?
Crossplay, no problem, etc., etc. Over the weekend, let's just do this in chronological order, then we can do reveals. Over the weekend, Sony announced that, hey, if you're playing Helldivers 2 on Steam, you're going to have to link it up to a PSN account. starting like next week.
And then people like walk to the computer and go, okay.
You move that over just a little bit. Sorry.
Oh, people walk.
No, just move this in. You're tilting towards me, and then you're like leaning away from the microphone. So
sorry, I just like tendency to do.
That's
something.
all right. That's all right.
So it's like they go in and they go, okay, you're let's say you're in Indonesia, and you're gonna come in. You've bought the game.
Yeah,
the game is bought. on Steam.
We're not even there yet.
Oh, we're not there yet. Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
We're not even there yet. We'll get there in a minute. So okay. Steam users, you're going to have to log into a PSN account starting next week, or you're not going to be able to play Helldivers 2. Not like you're not going to be able to crossplay. You're just not going to be able to play the game entirely. Now, what you said, we will get to that in just a second. But the first thing that happened was... I don't know who at Sony doesn't know anything about gamers, but if you say to a gamer, hey, I'm going to need you in order to play my video game to go to my website and create an account, they're like, well, then I'm going to need you to give me a refund and I'm going to fuck your mother. Like,
yeah, like that is a sin in gaming.
One of the biggest complaints about the Epic Game Store's existence was just like, I don't want to fucking have 2 logins. I got 1 login. It's a Steam login. I log into Steam.
Yep.
That's it. Like everybody who's tried to do this shit, Bethesda with their launcher, the UB Plus,
whatever bullshit that is, yeah.
Every time that happens, gamers are like, "Boo, fuck you, fart noise." So it was not well received. And then what you were saying,
they go that day to go sit down in a region that does not have PlayStation Network. Mm-hmm. PlayStation Network, nothing to do with Helldivers.
Yes,
nothing to do with Helldivers 2 because it's been working.
Yep. So. There are roughly 177 countries where Helldivers 2 is on sale on Steam, where you cannot create a PlayStation account.
Because PlayStation Network does not exist.
And to
be clear, this is not related to PS5 users. These are PC users that have bought the game.
Yep.
Not PS5 users.
Who have been playing it for several months now.
Yes.
So those users say, wait, what am I supposed to do? There isn't...
excuse me.
The Philippines doesn't have PlayStation Network. How do I do this? And they're like, well, there was one story about Sony support being like, I don't know, like, just say you're from a country that does have PSN. And they're like...
You're like, oh, thank you. That actually is a valid point. It helps me a lot.
Well, and then, of course, the pedantic Redditors in us all and the Steam forum goblins were like, guys, that's against your terms of service to report that you're in a country that you're not in. Like, you can get banned for that. So
like, no, we were talking about just existed. Just pretend you don't exist. That's what they meant to say.
Yeah. So... This did not 177. Yeah, I got it right. 177 countries. So let's talk about Arrowhead. The Arrowhead CEO, whose name I've read 100 times today, and I cannot remember because it's just like some guy's weird name. He says, guys, this is partially on. Well, first he just put out a tweet saying, like, kind of, people were like, what am I supposed to do? And he just was like, here's the Sony help desk link. I don't know what to tell you.
Open a ticket.
Yeah. And then it came out that I'm just looking for saying, okay, Johan Pilstead. And then he came out and he said, and this was, I think, what was you were talking about that made you mad. This was always going to be a requirement. It was just turned off at the beginning because Helldivers launch had all these server problems, and they were like, we didn't want
that they caused.
Well, sort of. I have to think, like, I think that any live service game,
I mean, it's fair,
has like a week and a half of grace. Yeah, like, get your shit under control.
I totally understand in the environment, but now I'm going, no, fuck you, because you had the screw up where you let PS5 users just chill out.
Yep.
In the fucking system because you don't realize how that shit works.
Yep. So the Steam requirement for that was turned off, but apparently it was always meant to be turned back on at some point. Okay, so we'll do chronological and then new revelations. One, all the users of Helldivers went crazy.
Yeah, they basically were like, if one of us can't dive, none of us can dive.
Yep. The Steam rating, which was mostly positive, went to overwhelmingly negative, like in a day, one day. Part of this will come back up, but part of this was that one of the mods on the Helldivers servers was telling people, like, the only way to like get any traction on this is there has to be. It can't just be like people are mad on Reddit. There has to be a number.
Overwhelmingly bad publicity.
It has to be something we can point to. And like, with Steam, the reviews, there's a graph.
Yeah.
Where you could be like, okay, here's the day that we introduced it. And here are all of here's 270,000 negative
Jeff,
reviews.
we can't possibly know if what we did caused that.
Right. So they did that. They were mad. They were angry. Bad stuff. And then Sony said... JK, we're not going to do that. They actually came out. It was a very just like corporate statement of just like, well, because Sony doesn't like this is the 5th or 6th game they've actually put out on the PC. They used to not do it, right? Everything was on PSN. They're just like, well, as we get used to being on the PC ecosystem, some mistakes get made, and we've heard your complaints.
Like,
so we're gonna
my bad, everybody. It's totally my bad.
We're gonna reverse that. One other thing that should have been up before that happened. Steam, because Steam is Steam, delisted Helldivers 2.
They're like, fuck you, we're not helping you
in those 177 countries where you couldn't have a PSN
because that
ID.
they're gonna get litigious fucking things back at them for that.
And started giving people refunds who literally had like
200, 300 hours played.
Yeah, like huge amounts of hours in the game. So, okay. Then Sony reversed and they said, no, we're not going to do that. Then, let's see, what happened after that? So, a couple of things here. One, after review bombing it, there's been an effort from the Helldivers community to bring the score back up again.
They're like, okay, the damage is over. Damage done.
But part of that is good because it's like, well, they caved to our demands, right?
Yeah.
We wanted it to not be a thing. It's not a thing. Let's not leave it as an overwhelming
Why
negative.
is this the one game community that can do good? How is this a thing?
I have a theory about that, and I think it's because that whole game is built on like people working together towards a goal to make a line go in a
What
specific
did they
direction.
create, Jeff?
I don't know, man. I don't fucking play that game.
I'm scared. No, I play it, but I'm scared to know what cult I've just joined.
There's also I heard a podcast where somebody said they made a really good point where they were talking about how like it's also become the new hangout game, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you and your friends can hang out
Saturday night, let's dive, man.
Yeah, and Helldivers too. And so potentially breaking up those that like brings the stress more from a like I can't play Helldivers 2 anymore to like
You've
I can't
ruined
hang
my
out with my friends.
You've ruined friendships,
Right.
Sony.
You ruined Saturday night, Sony. What
Jesus.
the fuck? So that happened, but then there was another part of the fallout, which is that community manager named Spitz that I talked about before.
I'm sorry, his name is Spitz?
He was Spitz on Discord.
Okay.
Is no longer a moderator in the Helldivers 2 community on Discord and has been very mum about like what actually happened there.
Yeah.
Because, and look, hey man, this is one of those internet things where it's like, my man, you did a good job. You were community manager who whipped people up. You couldn't possibly have thought that like Sony was going to give you a pass for getting people super pissed off at them and fucking up their golden goose.
You were the whistleblower internally in terms of like, and that's a coin term that's being passed around a lot of these days, but it almost is like, yeah, you're now going to be blamed for that.
Yes. And so there is actually a growing kind of movement to try to get him reinstated
as a mod. Just create a new role in Discord and just say glorified mod. Like, what is this? Is so weird.
The thing is, okay, so now there's one more thing, and that is that the Helldivers 2, the places where it was delisted, it has not been relisted.
Oh, well, maybe that's because there's some timeline of relisting to go through some process or something.
It's possible, but the thing is that the CEO literally came out and said, like, okay, there's something happening here that I think a lot of people don't see, which is that Arrowhead Studios didn't want this to happen. Sony desperately wanted this to happen, and the reason probably is because you give people on Steam a PSX account. they're in the ecosystem. One, you can go to your next board meeting and be like, PlayStation Network subscriptions went up by fucking 400% this quarter.
It sounds like they were mad that it came out on PC and it wasn't a exclusive. It's like, you know what I mean? Like when they first bought this company, why did they allow it to be released on PC?
Well, the thing is that okay,
because Sony's PlayStation Network sucks, right?
Yep.
Like it is not good at all.
Hard to navigate.
Yeah,
terrible. It's been that way for a long time. Yeah,
beyond shit.
They're all fucking bad in my opinion. Every one of them is bad in my opinion.
I'm okay with the Microsoft. I'm scared. Whatever.
So the thing that I think a lot of people don't see happening here, and this is what I was talking about with you, is that from what I can read in a lot of the different stuff behind the scenes, Arrowhead was saying over and over again, do not do this. Do not do this. This is going to be a huge problem. Look, it would have been one thing if we'd launched with the PSN ID turned on, but you can't turn it on now because it's going to cause all these problems. You don't understand how Steam players go. And on the other side, you've got some fucking C-suite puke who's like, my goal is to get PSN network signups up. I need the line.
Look at all of these users. We could just bring them over.
Right. What do you mean they're not going to take 2 minutes to go sign up on the website? And then guess what? They've got a PSN ID. So then in the future, when we're launching games on the PC and they have PSN integration, they can buy DLC through the store instead of giving Steam.
The argument basically just comes down to, well, they want to play Helldivers too, right? They have to sign up. Which is just not a good strategy.
Which they don't understand how and man, I love you guys listening to this, and I am one of you, and I include myself in the statement. One, how stubborn and stupid and petty people on the internet can be, even about their favorite thing. Yeah. What do you mean he's got a green lightsaber? He's got a red lightsaber in the comics. This is making fucking.
This is ridiculous.
I've seen people downvote games on Steam because the game doesn't have an FOV slider, and I'm like, I've never fucking adjusted FOV in my life, and you guys are just like, oh, the game is capped at 120 frames per second, but my my monitor does 144 frames per second VRR. I'm like, can you even fucking tell the difference?
There's a giant warehouse of pitchforks, all for gamers.
Yes, they do not want to be told what to, and especially PC gamers, like console gamers,
because the PC gamers were the beginner. Like they've been there since the beginning of time, right? Like,
half of them also put the things together with their bare hands. Yes. They built the console with their bare hands. They installed the shit.
I built my PC.
So there is a back and forth going on between Sony and Arrowhead, and the reason I know that is because today, the day that we're recording, or yesterday, the day before we record this, the CEO of Arrowhead came out and basically said, like, let's see. I'm speaking to our partners at PlayStation and Valve and pushing for it to be undone. This is about the delisting, right? Getting the account linking took a Herculean effort, but I won't rest in my desire to have it available everywhere. This is talking about how, like, and I'm so ready to believe this because it's such a plausible scenario. Some indie developer was like, please don't do this, and they're like, no, we're going to. And it was like 2 days worth of back and forth. He's like, I'm telling you guys, you're gonna kill the entire community. And they're like, what? Fucking, it's a website. It's one website. You're being dramatic about this. Steve, turn it on. And then they turned it on. They were like, oh, well, okay. 48 hours from now, nobody will even remember this. And they're like, well,
this is just the next media thing. It'll go away.
They delisted in 177 countries. What? Those countries counted for 15% of the fucking revenue. This game is available in like huge markets like the United States. That's where the majority of our people are. Who gives a shit?
Be careful, Jeff. You're backpedaling very fast now.
And then all the while, I think that the CEO of Arrowhead was like, no, we have to go backwards. There is no tweeting through this. Like, this is going to kill the momentum of this game. We're already on a knife's edge. We've already done a lot of damage. If we undo this before Monday, like this happened on Friday.
We'll save some face.
Right. Some people didn't see this because they were living their life on the weekends and not on Reddit. So I think that that's what happened here.
Won the battle, not the war, though.
But then also, you know what, man? Like fucking, I talked about this 2 weeks ago. Last week I talked about it was Stellar Blade, right? It's like, you guys, Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, for the most part, they're all idiots in their own way. Sony has been doing idiotic, dumbass bullshit for years. Do not think because they put out one good game that they've suddenly learned their lesson. Of course they haven't learned their lesson. Sony sat for years with their arms crossed, shaking their head at crossplay with Fortnite between Xbox, PC, and Switch players because they wanted people to be in their ecosystem and their ecosystem alone and not to be able to talk to people outside of it. And they just went no until like until the sentiment was so overpowering that they had just like Epic was just like, guys, we're just gonna make it cross-platform and y'all can fucking sue us, right? Microsoft, we just got done watching them be like, yeah, I bought 40 studios. Turns out I can only run 30 studios. Who knew? So I fucking destroyed 10 of the most like lauded studios in the industry. Whoopsie daisy.
Sony is like the stubborn old man, and Microsoft is like the, I'm sorry, I'm trying hard.
Yeah, Sony's like a Karen, and Xbox is just like dumb.
Try hard.
They're like a rich idiot, right? They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like they're just like, I don't know.
Put an X on the box. I don't know.
Yeah. Like they didn't think of what, Sony is, or Microsoft is the company where they made the Xbox and it came out at the same time as the PlayStation 2. And when the PlayStation 3 came out, they were like, well, we can't put out the Xbox 2. That's one less.
That's one less. We can't be one less.
The Xbox 360. And it's like, what does that even mean?
They're like, let's go 3, but then get 60 ahead of them.
Yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
You remember
how much cocaine was done at Microsoft during that time?
In the PS3 era, Microsoft was the fucking king of the console industry, and then they pushed the Kinect so hard, and the always online requirement with the Xbox One, they went all in on DVR on
it's
cable.
A TiVo, Jeff.
Right. Like none of them know what the fuck they're doing. The Wii U, catastrophic goddamn
Jeff,
failure.
They're trying. They went, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to buy everybody now, and then we'll figure it out.
Look at the PS5. Look at it. It looks stupid.
It does look very stupid.
Swoopy, dumbass. You need cooling. You know how many fucking cooling products there are in my room that don't have to look like a router? Like, come on, you guys. Anyway, so one of the big fallouts, one of the big backlashes
I love
from
that
game. Is very shortly Ghost of Tsushima is coming out on the PC.
I heard about this.
And people were like, well, am I going to have to make a PSN login?
It's an Old West showdown, right? Is it going to pop up to log in?
And see, this is how I know that Sony didn't learn their lesson. They just got bitch slapped around a little bit. You do not have to log into PSN in order to play the single-player game, but Ghost of Tsushima does have a multiplayer component where you team up with your friends and you go up against a PvE mode. That will require a PSN ID from day one. No getting around it. No way, no how. Now, I personally think that, like, Sony went about this in the most abysmally wrong way possible. What you needed was to be like, hey, here's a special, what do they call the things in... what do they call the pages in Helldivers where you get the rewards?
Oh, recons?
Or like a requisition or something.
Requisition, yeah.
Like, hey, if you link your PSN ID, you're going to get these 5 items for free. It is optional. Here are the 5 items you get for free. Ghost of Tsushima. If you link your thing,
that's way better. We treat people like with respect. That's an interesting.
Here's 3 cosmetics that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and you just get them for free, and they're really cool looking. You want those, right? Just go get a PSN ID, fucking whatever. It's like more carrot, less stick.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's see. We got a few more things here. Let's see if we can jump through these. Speaking of online multiplayer stuff, Remedy was working on 2 different online multiplayer projects.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was a Control spinoff.
Okay.
Called Project Condor.
No, and the remakes of Max Payne in 1 and 2.
Well, no.
Oh, sorry.
My monitor is just far enough away that you can see highlighted stuff.
I'm like,
but
no, I love Max Payne.
They had another one that was called Kestrel, and it was a game that we've never seen. We don't know what it is. Apparently, it had been through multiple iterations over and over again. They tried to make it work. They went back to the drawing board. It had this problem. Blah 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 blah. That has been canceled. And I think that's a really good idea because trying Remedy having 2 online like live service multiplayer
that just seems
games.
like a disaster of resources.
Right. Like, you guys just focus on one, you know, get that working. This announcement will not include the remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2, Control 2, or Condor. So
that's good. Thank God, honestly, because I'm excited about the remakes of Max Payne 1 and 2.
We finished Alan Wake 2, and I don't know what the fuck happened in Alan Wake 2. This is one game where I'm like, I need somebody to explain to me. This is like some Dark Souls shit. I don't
That's
get
always
it. Like,
good when you're like finish a game. You're like, what?
It was weird and interesting, but I'm not entirely sure. But then I went back and like read a bunch of stuff about Alan Wake 1. I'm like, people didn't understand what happened at the end.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't really understand what. Yeah,
I'm not too concerned about this. Let's see. In other multiplayer news, Warhammer 40K Space Marine is going to have a multiplayer mode. This was something that was the game is coming out later this year, and it wasn't entirely clear whether they were going to have a multiplayer like the first game had, like adversarial multiplayer, or not. The first game had one where it was like sorry, I'm trying to get something up in here. The first game had something that was like kind of a PvP mode, and this was going to have the same. It's only going to be Space Marines versus Space Marines, and then you're going to be able to, like, you know, they're smart enough to do the thing where it's like, well, you can paint your armor specific colors, and you can like make a flag,
customization, just like Halo,
right? But in Warhammer it makes sense because part of the whole Warhammer thing is painting the miniatures, right? So you can paint your own guys. Let's see. From there, we have a leak that Resident Evil 9 will almost certainly be coming out next year. This is a leak from somebody on Twitter called Dusk Golem. They leaked the that horrible Silent Hill prequel thing they put out earlier this year. And they've got a pretty good track record. Apparently, it was said that Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 8, and Resident Evil 9 started development at the same time. So it appears that Resident Evil 9 will be
amazing because it's 4 times the length.
Disconnected a little bit from... Well, I don't know how it could be a direct sequel unless they had it all planned out, because apparently there was like... internally for a while they didn't know which one was going to come out first, and then eventually they decided on Village as opposed to 9.
That's very strange, because it's not like the Resident Evil story is well put together in terms of like consistency and flow, so it's just all fragmented all the time.
It used to be the 8 is a directly follows 7, right, with the whole Ethan Winters thing.
Yeah,
but then 8 ends with like Ethan Winters' daughter DLC, and she's got like weird powers and stuff. So I don't know if 9's going to have her in it, and if it's going to be first person like the other ones, or what.
It just, what happened to the old school character? I don't know. It just really seems like it's... So it surprises me that they're like able to keep a story together, being like, I don't know what's going to come out first.
Well, for me, the real question is what happens, because it's split, right? You've got the new ones, you've got 7, 8, and now 9, and then you've got the remakes with 2, 3, and 4 last year. So my question is, on that remake train, what comes next?
Ooh.
Are you guys going to remake Resident Evil 5? Because 5 could probably use a remake,
right?
Like with But then also, I don't know if even if you remade Resident Evil 5 in the best way possible, it's still about Chris Redfield shooting a bunch of people in Africa, and like, I don't know. And then like, do you remake 6 after that? Because 6 was a mess, but like, do you try to because
just to say you remastered them all?
2, 3, and 4 are all like pretty straight putts from their originals, right? They took some stuff out of 3, they redid some stuff in 4, they redid some stuff in 2, but they're pretty similar to their originals. But the question is like, well, do you do 5, or do you do what Jeff says? Make fucking Code Veronica remake, because I've never played that game. This is a Dreamcast game, and I don't know what happens in it, but apparently it's fucking bug nuts insane, and that's what I want out of my Resident Evil, is like,
let's get some Code Veronica in this shit.
Weird shit. Or just throw it all away and start remaking Parasite Eve games.
Now that's a plan.
Yeah. So this would make sense in a way because Resident Evil 8 came out, and I think there was a year gap. And there was RE4, and then a year gap, and then it ended up being like a 2-year gap, but then RE9.
Yeah.
So, but Capcom ain't gonna stop making Resident Evil games. That's all I have to say about that. Let's see. We talked about this before, but Nintendo came out and admitted that there is going to be a new Switch at some point. This was part of the problem with this stuff is that you can try to keep this shit secret from the public, but we now have investor calls.
Yeah.
And
we wants to know is where's the money.
Stockholder meetings, and people want to like be assured that you have a plan moving forward. So you can't just be like, it's a secret to your shareholders. You can do that to the chumps like you.
Mario will tell you soon. No, Mario's gonna tell us now because we're gonna fucking fire you if you're not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
that buy that stuff. But yeah, the current president of Nintendo, Mr. Furukawa, came out and said, we will make an announcement. This is on Twitter, actually. We'll make an announcement about the successor to the Nintendo Switch within this fiscal year, so up until March of 2025. It will have been over 9 years since we announced the existence of Nintendo Switch back in March of 2015.
I gotta say, the Switch, one of the most successful consoles of the decade.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And then they also said, this is the part that I think people really need to know. There's going to be a Nintendo Direct in June. It will not be having any information. Like they specifically said,
come on.
It will not have any information. Well, this is like their game lineup for the rest of the year. June is basically E3, so it'll be games.
If I'm a shareholder, I'm just shaking my head going, line go down.
Well, the thing is, what's weird about Nintendo is that all the rumors have been like, there's a Switch 2, right? Companies have dev kits. They're working on stuff. You can't keep this shit too much of a secret.
You have to expose it at some point.
But the thing is that there's one rumor going around, and I like it a lot, that is Nintendo has kept it so under wraps because they want to build enough stock that when they release it, it's not going to be like the Switch or the PS5 or any of that stuff. There's going to be so many fucking Switch 2s that there will be no secondary market. They're going to be on the shelf, and when they go away, there's going to be new ones tomorrow, and then when they go away, there's going to be new ones tomorrow.
I don't believe that.
Well,
I mean, I want to, but I just cannot fathom an idea where supply and demand is not going to come in when you're talking about building consoles. Most of the time, you take a loss on building consoles, right?
Nintendo's better about that than others because they tend to have a better
the ratio, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like that would go against that philosophy, though, because you're making that much demand. What happens if if you're making that much supply? What happens if the demand's low? Because I truly believe a lot in this life is because of demand.
Well, so I think that what Nintendo is saying, is that the opposite argument there is that Nintendo executives go, what do you mean people want to buy a Switch and they can't go to the store to buy a Switch? They want to give us $250.
Yeah,
they have $250.
Yeah.
And we're like, I can't take your $250.
This isn't math. We must do this. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, we are not going to be in position. I mean, Nintendo's shit always sells, right?
I mean, isn't this the same concern of the ET scenario with Atari? Where you just over fucking produce because you just think there's going to be demand?
Sort of, but Nintendo actually has a pretty good track record of actually being up to back up those numbers with actual demand.
And does this make them more enticed to not allow backwards compatibility? Like if they don't allow it, then people will have to buy it because they'll have to get to the new games.
Nintendo has a philosophy. There's a really good book about Nintendo out there that I read. Nintendo has a philosophy where they believe that one of the other reasons that they have a lot of time between these is because Nintendo is obsessed with it's got to work. It's got to work out of the box
consistently.
It's got to do what it says. It's got to be easy. Your dumb mom has to be able to understand how it works.
If people out there are going, but what about the Power Glove? That's a lot of third-party, old school,
Well,
shit.
that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Virtual Boy and all this bullshit, right?
Especially the Wii, that stuff worked.
Yeah,
out of the box.
Yeah,
it was very complicated, but it worked everywhere.
Don't even talk to me about the Wii. I don't believe that the 3DS worked. And
Until
I was
you grabbed it,
and then I did it, and I was like, holy shit. And then they put out the second one that looked at your eyes and adjusted, and I was like, this is magical. There's a fucking witch in here.
This is crazy.
Anyway, Nintendo's groovy and stuff, but also they suck assholes like everybody else.
Boo.
Nintendo just did a mass takedown on GitHub.
Boo.
Now this is stupid. This is stupid shit all around. Okay, Nintendo shut down the Yuzu and what was it called? Like oatmeal or some bullshit, like grapefruit. What was the other one called? Yuzu and there was one other Switch emulator. There are two Switch emulators. Pineapple. One was called Yuzu, one was called Pineapple.
Very clever.
These dumbasses flew too close to the sun. There's a story we already did.
Mm-hmm.
They put too much information on their website. Nintendo took them down. All the files for these were hosted on GitHub, and so before it was taken down, roughly 8,000 idiots like forked that branch on GitHub. I don't know if you guys know how GitHub works, but it's a code repository, and you can hit a button to basically fork that code and be like, okay, I've taken that code, and now I'm going to edit that code, and this is my branch over here now. This original code exists. So people were like, oh shit, here comes Nintendo to shut everything down. We're going to fork all these branches. Yeah. And Nintendo like sent GitHub a thing where they were like, kill all those branches.
Yeah.
And so there are roughly 8,000 forks of Yuzu and Pineapple that this week got taken down because Nintendo don't play. I don't know how the fuck I like this has kind of been presented as like can you believe it? I'm like, yes, I can believe it.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious that this is going to be a problem.
They're not playing around, man. Like, you know, keep your like.
When are you not going to learn that they're not going to sit back on that shit?
Like, the thing is that I think a lot of people that are younger than me don't entirely understand the concept of like if you do it on the internet, it's in public.
Yeah,
like it will be found eventually.
Yeah,
like
this isn't a magical place anymore. It exists.
Right. Like Nintendo will find you and they will kill your project.
I'm gonna break your knees.
So you know, if you want to work on a Nintendo emulator, fucking take that shit offline. Don't start a Discord server. Start like a fucking IRC dark web server, right? Put that shit on an FTP, like you know, somewhere with like explicit login restrictions.
Go to Ventrilo and just be like, all right, let's get back into that shit.
Yeah, go find some places where you know that you can't be watched, but don't just like fork the branch on GitHub and then be like,
come on.
But I forked the branch. It's not even called Yuzu. I called it Radish Face, and it's like it's the same code, assholes. So, on the one hand, Nintendo is crappy at this, and on the other hand, people are stupid about it. Speaking of stupidity, apparently Andrew Wilson over at EA. What is EAO? EA was talking last week and said that they're really hungry to get that AI into their production pipeline.
I'm sure they are.
Really hungry. Said, quote, we've done analysis across all of our development processes, and right now, based on our early assessment, we believe that more than 50% of our development processes will be positively impacted by advances in generative AI. And we've got teams across the company really looking to execute against that. I'm going to say the same thing I said before. I'm a bit of a stupid technologist, and I'm like not an AI bro, but like I do see some like facets of AI that are useful.
Oh, absolutely.
Like one of the things they talked about was rigging. So you have a 3D character model, you have to put the skeleton, and you have to do all the rigging to make sure that it works and that when it moves, you could totally see a situation where that task was no longer meticulously done by a person who had to gruelingly sit there and be like, no, the wrist isn't there, the wrist is here, blah 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 blah, like where an AI was just like looking, but done.
Yep.
Right. I really do think that there are scenarios here where AI could help out. The last company in the world that I would expect to do it ethically and in a good way is EA.
EA is like, we're going to figure out how to build artificial player bases.
Yes.
And just have that shit running and then just say they're subscribers.
I'm pretty sure it was EA. It might have been Activision, but I'm pretty sure it was EA that like copywrote a software thing where it was like you are playing an online game and their servers would pair you with somebody who was better at the game, who was using a gun that you could buy with real world money so that you would see them owning with like a DLC gun and be like, oh, I need that gun.
Oh, that's my, I gotta have it.
And I'm like, oh God, fuck you guys. But I also expect that much like everything else, Blake, I've been doing this for a long time, man. And like, I just don't believe that they're going to learn until they do it, destroy everything, and go, I guess the old way was fine. Like,
should have listened to you. Oh, really? Now?
Yeah. Instead, I wouldn't even be mad if they were just like, oh, we're creating very small pilot projects to try this stuff out, instead of like, the next Battlefield game will be made entirely with AI, and it's like, no, stop it. Like, was this the one where he said that dumb shit where he was like, oh yeah, this blah blah blah. One of these was I think this was him talking about like, someday you're just going to be able to go to a website and type in what kind of game you want. It'll just generate the entire game from the ground up. And I'm like, look, guys, I don't hate AI, but I don't want that. Like, I don't want
AI generated garble
slop. Like, I want AI to help people.
You know what I really can't stand right now too out on YouTube is all that stupid shit like Family Guy from the 50s. Or like, I was like, this shit is not interesting. It's just the same drivel and dry fucking AI created crap, and it's like, man, I don't know.
The problem, of course, being that like once AI takes like 2 more steps forward, you guys get ready. Everybody strap in. I'm predicting it right now. There was going to be a time in, I think, about 5 years, maybe a little bit more, where there's going to be some kind of scandal where people are like, that new album was made with AI. They're like, it was not made with AI. Here's videos of us in the studio, and they're like, that's AI too. That's AI too. Like, there is no evidence.
It's AI.
Like, I'm putting out a statement about how this wasn't made with AI. I can tell that statement was written with ChatGPT. Like,
copy paste. You see copy paste.
Yeah, and so there's going to be a time where it gets just like a little bit better. It used to be, right? You could look at the hands, you can tell, but now you can't do that anymore.
Right.
And sometimes you can tell, and sometimes you're like, I don't know, you guys. So.
It's really ethical to go and say there has to be rules to AI, but who knows? Who knows?
Well, speaking of ethical, guess what else EA wants to do?
What do EA do ethically now?
They're bringing back an oldie. They want to put ads in the games. They want ads for stuff inside of the games, like just a lot. Blake, I want to ask you this. Do ads work on you anymore? Because they don't fucking work on me anymore. I'm more apt to look at an ad, like an unskippable ad, and go like, never. I will never buy whatever you're. You know how many products a podcaster has told me I can get for free with a promo code that I've actually ordered? 0. 0. Oh no, 1. I used the Modern Rogues code for NordVPN so that I could pirate shit that they were trying to sell me elsewhere.
Well, I just feel like it comes to a situation where you have I've totally lost my thought. What are we talking about?
Ads, sorry.
I'm like, oh shit, what am I talking about? So ads innately are subconscious.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know how often I go to McDonald's if I'm like, I have all these other choices. But the ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba in my head. I feel like that stuff is more subconsciously driven, which is where that's living in my head. Then yeah, I see Jiffy Lube right now. I don't fucking go to Jiffy Lube.
Nope.
I'm not gonna. I don't fucking care.
Nope.
Right. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Now, how many times have I bought something off Instagram? Like, none. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I was actually trying to think about it. And I was like, outside of this bullshit ads on the side of stuff, and the problem with this is that so many of them are targeted in a way where they're trying to sell me something I already own. Like that Jiffy Lube ad turned into a Wells Fargo thing. I've had a Wells Fargo account for 20 years. Like, you're not selling me Wells Fargo.
But I think they know that you have a Wells Fargo, which is why they're...
Almost certainly, which I think makes it really stupid that they're trying to sell me something that I already own. But I also bought YouTube Red a few years ago.
I have YouTube Red too.
I don't see ads before YouTube videos anymore.
So now when they're putting ads in the video, it's like, I didn't pay. I was like, I didn't pay for no ads.
Well, now the thing is, you can't skip the ad when the creator is doing
That's
the
what
ad
I'm saying.
read.
It's like you can't. I'm like, okay, I understand that.
But then a lot of creators know what they're doing because they put the chapters in there where you can literally see where the ad ends, and you're just like, boop. There you go.
I do appreciate there are some really good YouTube based content that takes the ad read and makes it interesting.
Yep.
Even though it's not going to captivate you at all, it's just better than hearing, "Do you have erectile dysfunction?"
Right.
Well, here's Blue Chew.
Yep. Quick couple here, and then we'll be done. We'll take a break. We got confirmation that the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for Elden Ring, only DLC they're going to get. This actually makes tons of sense. I mean, the previous games that had, well, Bloodborne had one, but like Dark Souls 3 had like 2 DLCs for it. This is an open world game where they're adding like a whole other area with quests and bosses and stuff, and it's just like, I'm happy that we're getting one.
Yeah.
But the idea that they're going to make more, like Miyazaki came out, was just like, is an insane amount of work, because you're not just adding like one cave that you can sell for $20. You're adding like another chunk of the map. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Also, though, I want them to move on. Like, 2 years ago, Elden Ring, or 2021 Elden Ring, and then 2023 Armor Core, and then 2024 Elden Ring DLC, and then 2025 Armor Core, more Armor Core.
Yeah, I was like, Armor Core.
More Armor
Armor
Core.
Core shit was impressive. So yeah, more of that, please.
Yeah. And then let's wrap it up with a trailer and a story. So Hades 2 went into early access last week, just out of nowhere. Talking about like Hi-Fi Rush, just like whoop. It was there, and now boom, Hades 2 is in early access. It is on Steam. You can buy it right the fuck now.
It looks more animated, like you know what I mean. It's more of a heavier animation, and then
well, it's a lot darker than the first. It's got a different color scheme. It's like more purple.
Yeah, the color palette is way different.
And then they've got this little animated intro that they start out with. But the actual game itself, they've actually added a shitload to this game. It's got like crafting mechanics where you get like resources and then you bring them back and you do stuff. It's got a lot. It's also kicking my ass. It's like harder than the first one, or my muscle memory for the first one does not translate to this one. So I'm trying to play it like the first one, and it doesn't work like that.
You ain't getting very far, is what it sounds like.
I'm not. I'm like 17 runs in, and I haven't beaten the main bad guy yet. I think the last time I played Hades 1, and I just started a new game, I think it took me like 5 runs to beat Hades before, like just from 0 to like run number 5.
That's crazy, because I never really got very far in Hades. I tried a lot. But.
Yeah, but it's out now, and you know what? It's doing great. It's basically doubled the first game's concurrent player count on day one.
On early access.
Yeah, on early access. So yeah, the peak of original Hades was 37,749, and with the launch of Hades 2, it's around 80,000.
Man, we have nothing else better to do than play. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like we've doubled the play count. Like, how?
Yeah.
How many? Why? You guys, people are just like, oh, I'm gonna fucking play this one.
Well, I think with Hades, it's interesting because like people trickled in during early access and trickled out. Like,
yeah, because they slowly released it to like consoles. It wasn't like all at once every console had it.
It started on the Epic Game Store in early access as an exclusive, and so like it was there for a while. Then it came into 1.0 in the Epic Game Store. Then it came to Steam. Then it came to console. So you were trickling in just a player base a little bit at a time, and then everybody loved it. And so now it's like, here's the second one.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, woo! But then this is the same week that V Rising went into 1.0, and like I've been bouncing. See, I'm kind of torn with this one because since it's in early access, I don't know if I want to play it.
The whole, yeah.
I might want to wait for it to be done because I don't want to hit the wall and then be like, fuck.
I don't want the tease.
Yeah. But it's amazing. It's a great iteration. I might like the first one a little better, but I don't know yet because I've seen some stuff in some videos that makes me think that there might be stuff that I'm not even aware of in the game yet. So
more to come.
Yep. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we're going to do trailers. So stick around, and we'll see you in just a minute. And we're back.
We're back.
And it's the final stretch. And you know what that means? Trailers.
Oh, I was going to say popcorn and Cracker Jacks.
No. Wait, do you eat popcorn and Cracker Jacks?
Well, it's the 7th inning stretch.
Oh, okay.
Buy me. Oh, wait, no, it's peanuts.
But Cracker Jacks have peanuts in them as well. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Cracker Jacks have peanuts in the thing.
Popcorn and... Okay, my mind is blown now because I'm like, I thought it was popcorn and crack. I don't know. It's been a long week. It's been a long week, but hey, guess what? We have trailers to get through.
Yeah, Multiversus is coming back. They took took the Warner Brothers Smash Brothers game offline for like a year to rework it.
Seeing Shaggy like desperately grab for a sandwich as Batman walks by him and Bugs Bunny's fucking dead is kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because the Joker is back. He was not in the game before, but the big news here is that Mark Hamill is voicing him.
Oh, love us some Mark.
Which he had said before he was basically done
with that character.
Yeah, and he wasn't going to do it anymore. But hey,
he's like, fine, you pull me back in.
They pull up the money dump truck to your house and they say, tell us when to stop. And you're like, okay.
I mean, voice work is, I don't want to say it's easy, but it is in the wheelhouse of people that love to do it.
Yep.
Seems like a very fun project to get behind. So
also, I mean, you know, brave and controversial opinion that nobody's had before. Mark Hamill's my favorite Joker. So,
well, yeah, of course. I mean, he's been probably Joker the longest, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that's great. Coming out May 28th. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. In other superhero news, we got our first look at Homelander.
Let's go.
In Mortal Kombat 1. And it's his opening animation is him creepily drinking the milk. He seems like he's just as big of a jackass as he is in the show. Like, I really wish that I enjoyed Mortal Kombat 1 more, because the lineup for these guys between like Omni-Man, Homelander, and Peacemaker has been a great like cameo.
I mean, Homelander is essentially like today's version of Superman. You know what I mean? Like, it is just incredible how something like that can translate perfectly in Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah,
like just you drop and plop, dude.
Yeah, like
no problem whatsoever to put him in the Mortal Kombat game, or even in Justice. It'd be great to see him against actual fucking other superheroes.
Yeah. So yeah, this is just the teaser. We didn't see any like specific moves outside of it looks like a fatality where he just blasts all the way through Mortal Kombat Liu Kang's head with his laser beam, which I fully endorse, and also punching somebody up into an airplane full of people like that one episode in the show. So yeah, good job. Another Realm. Again, I just wish I liked Mortal Kombat 1 more.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Yeah.
So
darn.
I like it okay, and I played through it once, but like the previous ones just had a lot more staying power for me. So let's see. From there, we got the trailer for Hela in Marvel Rivals. Are you familiar with Marvel Rivals?
I guess I'm not. I don't recall.
It is Overwatch.
Oh, it's the Overwatch.
It's the Overwatch one. And even just watching somebody play third-person Overwatch in the Marvel universe looks fucking exhausting and terrible, and I hate it.
Bad. It looks like a early aughts like Unreal Tournament, but with anime shit thrown in.
A mod,
like a mod. Yeah, it just does not look current.
It looks like a skin pack for Overwatch. Like Hela's ultimate there was just like what's her face's ultimate
from the sky,
right? Yeah, like she just flies up in the sky and then she's like throwing down energy bolts
from above. That
not Symmetra, the other one, fucking Farah, right? Yeah. Just it looks like Farah's ultimate. And I'm just like, so you guys are just doing like,
you don't care anymore. You're literally just like, we'll just do that.
We'll just do Overwatch.
It's fine.
What is it? Oh, it's just Overwatch with a Marvel skin on it. And it's like, well, considering the state of Overwatch, if you could make it work, maybe. But you know, on the other hand, I'm tired. I'm sleepy.
Give me something to wake up to.
Yeah. Well, here's something that I should like quite a bit. Speaking of comic books and manga and stuff, the global launch for Solo Leveling Arise. I love Solo Leveling, and this looks like some phone game, dumbass horseshit. There is a PC version, but it's like anytime I see something where when it launches
App Store,
it launches App Store, Android, and PC, and it's like, oh, guys, come on. You tried this with One Punch Man like a month ago, and it didn't really work. So, I don't know though. Maybe this shit's huge in Korea, right? Maybe it's like huge in Asia. All I know is that
I'll take my time elsewhere other than my phone. I don't want to game on my phone. You know why? Because that's just my phone. Like, I know that seems like, oh, that's very archaic thinking. No, like, separate some things, right? My wallet is now my phone.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Your key
your
will
camera
be
is your phone.
Yeah, your keys will be your phone at some point. It sometimes is.
I turn my lights in my house on and off with my phone.
So everything is going to go to the phone? No, I want an experience, and you can't have an experience in a fucking phone. Like David Lynch says, you can't watch a fucking movie on a telephone. Like,
I actually know somebody who almost exclusively watches movies on their phone.
I mean, and I'm all in favor of absorbing mediums when you can, because I'm not saying it doesn't work for everybody else, but like watching Eraserhead and doing it from your phone just sounds hilarious to me, because David Lynch is rolling somewhere. Be like, no.
The problem that I have is I have spent like sitting here in my studio. You can see I spent a lot of money on very large screens.
Maybe,
and I do not want to look at this like Android Pixel 4 8-inch. I got a 22-inch curved monitor with 120 hertz refresh rate. Like, get out of here.
I'm not interested in the phone. Maybe I'm going to order pizza on it, but I'm definitely not going to fucking watch Home Alone. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Anyway, Solo Leveling, the anime rules. Everybody should go watch it. It's great. It's very violent, which I like, because it's Korean and not Japanese.
Oh, so yeah. Okay.
Speaking of anime shit, we got the official trailer. I didn't open it for Gundam Breaker 4.
I was like, wait, this is not Gundam.
No, it is not. We got the official trailer for Gundam Breaker 4. It's been 6 years since there was a Gundam Breaker game, and now there's going to be another one. This is, of course, the Gundam game that is all about gunpla, as opposed to like a I don't know why these motherfuckers are so like scared of just making a single player action game. You got Gundam Battle Operation 2 multiplayer game. They had their Gundam Overwatch game that they shut down. Here's Gundam Breaker, where it's like, yes, it's the models. You could put any piece on any model, and then you can fight the models to get. I'm like, God damn you guys! Like,
I think it looks kind of cool. I'm sorry. I think I'm a fucking sucker for Gundam. In fact, did you see what I sent you for the magic cards?
Yes.
I have Gundam proxies.
Well, also, I don't think that just the way the game looks is very good.
Well, think about it as like the Armyman games back in the day. That's how I'm thinking about it.
No,
where like,
no, I will not. I refuse to. I refuse.
But those games are fun, Jeff. You're the Gundam, and you can just you creativity. You said you like to create your characters. You can create whatever Gundam you please. Yeah, now, the SD Gundam stuff, I'm like, fuck that.
But I don't like the thing with Gundam is I don't want to. I want to play the Witch from Mercury game where I get to play as the aerial Gundam and like get really good at playing it.
Then go to Japan and meet those. Go to those arcades.
I saw this online the other day. Brief sojourn. I saw it online the other day. From Software made a Gundam game that was only released in Japan. And it's like the super, super deep. It's got like a tactical mode where you can like move armies and then you play the individual.
Do we know anyone that speaks Japanese?
I don't.
Well, we just need to play that on the show at some point.
Anyway, this looks like...
Is that a giant penis they made?
No, it's just a big arm on a Galf. Like they're like, do whatever you want. And then when they show the example of whatever you want, it's like, oh, you can make any ugly ass Gundam you want that looks like shit. And I'm like, I don't
let everyone see your talent.
I don't want to do that. I want to just play the Gundam game. I want to play the Char's counter. Can I get like a Dragon Ball Kakarot, but for Gundam, please, where they just do the whole UC saga? You just get to play through all of it. I would do that. I would play that game.
That would help a lot of people learn, because it's a lot. That's a lot of shit to get through.
Maybe a long ass game.
Maybe a very long ass game.
60-hour RPG or something.
I would totally skip F91 though, to be honest with you.
So yeah, I don't know. This I know people really like this stuff. It's weird to me that the Gunpla is it's like it's such its own thing that you've got its own game franchise.
Hey, Lego, baby. It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
It is. It is. Gunpla is just adult Lego. Thing. Yes, it is, Jeff.
It is not the same
yes,
thing.
Yes, it is.
I still would if somebody gave me that fucking huge ass master grade RX-78, I would totally build it. I put it somewhere and I look at it and go, ooh. but I'm not going to spend like $500 on a fucking Gundam model.
Honestly, the thing I loved about being into Gunpla for about a month, my season of Gunpla, because there was a season of Gundam,
right,
and there was a season of Gunpla.
Yep.
And when I went to Gunpla, I remember I got many of the RX-78 models, and what I hated the most about it was that you could just get a bad like model piece, and then like the legs would just be like, bloop. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, man, I want to do, like, you go to Japan, you see all these really cool like landscapes they do with that shit, and it's like they have all these like lights and like little Raspberry Pi things going on, and I'm just like over here with my half like one-legged like one RX-78, and I'm like, I'm a fan.
I love it. Let's see. This seems like a weird transition, but we also got a trailer last week for this game called Akimbot.
Ooh,
that's like another kind of robot game. Normally, this isn't the sort of game that I would put on
Ratchet
here,
and Clank or
but
something.
it looks exactly like Ratchet and Clank,
it
right?
Looks exactly like Ratchet and Clank. I thought that was Ratchet and Clank.
Like the main robot has little ears like Ratchet, and it's kind of got this behind the back third person. He's got a little like robot guy.
Is this going to be like a secret reveal of Ratchet behind the robot?
I don't think so. I think this is just somebody who was like, fine, I'll make my own Ratchet and Clank game because they don't want to make them anymore. And but it looks gregreat.
Yeah,
like,
it looks
really fun. So,
makes you want to play Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, if you're like me and you love Ratchet and Clank, go check out the trailer for Akimbot, because I remember I just for when I get the show started, I will pull up a lot of trailers and then I'll cut a bunch of them. And this is when I pulled it up and I was like,
now we're leaving that shit in.
I want to play this game. Fuck that. Like,
leave it in.
Like, it's all very simple, but they're using like some little FOV tricks and stuff, and it looks cool. So yeah, who knows? Let's see. Speaking of robots, we got an overview trailer for Steambot Heist 2. Or SteamWorld Heist 2. It is amazing to me. I think I say this every time, that this franchise, the SteamWorld franchise, continues. Because it started out as like a weird Minecraft kind of digging game, but now it's like there's SteamWorld Heist and there's SteamWorld, like there was a city builder one, and there's like SteamWorld 3 or 2, and
man,
like
somebody took an idea and marketed and ran with that shit.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's like go back to like talking about like studio shutdowns and things. Like, the way that I know this is all bullshit is because surely the studio that makes this would be out of money by now, right?
Yeah, that's
like,
true. Yeah.
These have never sold like $1 bajillion. They got to be running on a shoestring. Like, if it was that dire, surely. But like, it's interesting.
It looks like Worms.
It sort of is. Yeah, it's like a 2D turn-based combat game where you play a bunch of, the whole point of this franchise is that the entire world is made of steam-powered robots that are sentient, and so instead of having people, you got a bunch of robots walking around doing stuff. And in this case, there are a bunch of pirates that are kind of on the open seas fighting a bunch of other people, but they've got kind of a turn-based action system, but you can like ricochet bullets around corners and stuff, and so it's very kind of cool looking. So I don't know, looks good. The first one I was kind of excited for, but then it just didn't really hold my attention. Maybe this one will be the one that holds my attention.
Looks like it has interesting mechanics.
It's also got a really unique art style. Like, it looks really good.
Yeah.
So who knows? Perhaps this is the one. That's the thing, is this year, man, you can't ever tell. It's like fucking Helldivers 2 has taken over. Helldivers 2 and Pow World have taken over everything.
It's kind of fun because every trailer you watch, you're like, is this going to be the next thing?
Yep. Hades 2 came out. It's got 80,000 concurrent players on Steam. So,
man, all of us just have fucking all the time in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's why I don't play Helldivers. Rocket Knight Adventures: The Resparked Collection got a trailer.
Let me guess. You're not a fan.
Oh no,
come on! This looks exactly like Sonic. He looks exactly like fucking Sonic.
No, he's got a sword. He's got like a thing that hurts people. He's a knight. He's a rocket knight.
I think the game you want to play is called Hypocritico.
And a jetpack. Sonic doesn't have a jetpack. This guy's got a sword and a jetpack. That's completely different.
It's like Sonic and Mega Man had a baby.
This is another one of those Konami re-releases. So it's they're releasing all 3 of the Rocket Knight games in one package that you can get physical from Limited Run.
That's pretty cool.
Or online, and they're usually priced very well. They just put out a Felix the Cat collection that was a similar thing.
When I open it up and I get it from Limited Run, I'm like, oh, a CDR, cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. This is like everybody talks about, like, game preservation.
Mm-hmm.
This is a company actually doing the game preservation thing.
Fair.
So, and Konami of all places is very.
They're behind something.
Yeah, they're like actually doing something. So, are you playing a trailer behind my back? That's not what I had. Oh yeah, it's played through like 6 trailers while we weren't looking. So, let's see. From there, here's something I never expected to talk about. This is a teaser for a Lady Death game. Now, do you know Lady Death from like the back in the comic book days of the 90s? It was this lady with the white hair and the big ass boobs. Yes. And this is called Demonicron. And it's like, it's very, just a few kind of mock-ups with some very basic animation, but it appears like it's going to be kind of a third person, or like a beat 'em up, like a side-scrolling beat 'em up starring Lady Death from the comic Lady Death. I think she was friends with like Vampirella or something. It was like
it kind of looks like an Underworld Red Sonja or some shit. You know, that looks really cool. Is it going to be multiplayer? Like, can you play just like a single player game, or?
From the look of it, it'll probably end up being like a side-scrolling beat 'em up.
Yeah.
You know, so
It'd be cool to like jump in as like other fucking crazy looking creature. It reminds me of like a heavy metal art style, or some sort of like Conan art style.
Again, it was one of those like 90s indie run comics that made it on like Boobage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like this and stuff like Vampirella, or like Evil Ernie? Do you know Evil Ernie?
That one's a little bit before my time.
I'm bringing up the deep cuts. Let's see. I could be wrong, but I feel like he might have been under the same imprint as the rest. Yeah, look, there's Evil Ernie and Lady Death in a comic. He's like a punk rock zombie guy.
That's kind of fucking. He looks like a punk rock John Stamos, like undead.
Joey Ramone, the comic book skeleton.
What the fuck timeline is this from? It was
a whole series. Let's see. We got a minute here. Let's see. Lady Death. Let's look it up.
Lady Death
was from. Let's see. Surely there's a Wikipedia. Yeah. Avatar Press took over 2005. It was from Chaos Comics from 1994 to 2002, and then CrossGen Comics from 2003 to 2005. So yeah, Chaos Comics with a lot of weird. They did some Insane Clown Posse comics.
Oh my goodness!
All the Lady Death,
Mankind. What is that? Is that a wrestling one?
Oh, I don't know. Mankind.
It is. Yep. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, yeah. There's
Undertaker. Holy shit!
So they did some some craziness. So anyway, it's a history lesson for everybody. Next up, V Rising launched last week, so we got a gameplay trailer. Hopefully, you all have already listened or watched our dojo about this. V Rising rules so hard. It is a survival game, but you play as a vampire. So instead of building like a Minecraft house, you build a Gothic castle. And instead of harvesting wheat, you harvest the blood of the villagers who scream and run away from you as they die in horrible, horrible pain. So I love it. It's great. It's really addictive. It's got a great loop. They also put in like Simon Belmont is out there as a vampire hunter that you can kill. And it's just a great time. And then I stayed up late for a week trying to get us to a place where when we played the full version of the game, we would be able to jump ahead on part 2. And it turns out that the developers wiped all the servers because they weren't compatible with the 1.0 version. So it was all gone.
That sucks.
But yeah, it's great. This is I'm torn between this and Hades 2 this week because it's really cool. Let's see. In other weird game news, we got the launch trailer for this game called Indica.
Yeah, so I watched somebody play they released some sort of demo for this, and it was extremely it was interesting. I don't know if I would say it was fun, like for the player but it was interesting enough to be like, this is different.
It's apparently has a very weird sense of humor. Yeah, it's about this woman who's like a nun. And it's very bizarre. Like a lot of the trailer for it is like it's almost looks like live action, but then other parts of it are like pixel art like games. Apparently, it's one of those games where it's like you just like if you trust the people that you're being listened to, go play it and don't learn anything else about it. It's also on Game Pass, which is nice. Yeah. So. It came out last week, but then it's on Game Pass this week. So I don't know. This trailer, it's funny because I was kind of on the Oh, I'm so tired. I was kind of on the the ledge.
The fence?
The fence. There you go. Thank you. Fucking son of a bitch brain. But then I also like how weird this trailer is.
Yeah.
And how like some of the camera angles are very, very bizarre. That I'm kind of interested in checking it out.
Yeah, no, it's got a vibe to it. It's kind of hard to describe.
Anyway, very weird. Let's see. We got a teaser for the casting of Frank Stone. This is the spin-off game from the Dead by Daylight series.
Nice.
It's a single-player spin-off. This trailer is just a picture of a radio doing a broadcast about people getting murdered in the area. So
I like that. I like a little bit of the teasing of the salt on top, or the cherry on top.
Yeah. It's definitely not for people who are looking for a thrill ride a minute. So. Let's see. After that, we have a trailer for something called Asleep. There weren't as many trailers this week, so I included a few more indies. This appears to be like a kind of a 2D adventure game where you play as a young woman who's like dreaming and is kind of trapped in a disconcerting nightmare.
Like it. That's cool. You don't really see one of the most interesting games I've ever heard or read or watched was that LSD game. Or was it LSD, or it was from a PlayStation? It was the PlayStation, and it came out and it was basically like you were in a dream world. And it was very abstract. Was it LSD? I don't remember, but it was basically a Japanese only release game. And every time that you played it, like you would start in an environment and it would happen for like 30 seconds to 3 minutes, and you would like walk around and then it would change. And then like you would do all this various stuff. It kind of reminds me of that, but this is way more structured, way more linear on a 2D side. I like dream-like games. I think it's really creative how you can, I don't know, take the idea of a dream and then add more to it.
Yeah. And it's also really kind of disconcerting. It's got some weird imagery and stuff to it. That should be out by the time you hear this. The only thing with this is that it's episode 1, so they're doing kind of episodic releases of it.
Gotcha.
But let's see. From there, we got a release date for this game I've never heard of before called The Posthumous Investigation. This is like a black and white kind of adventure game where you play as a detective, but it also appears to be a time loop. Because every time in this trailer, at least, that the character dies, they kind of like fall into this like spiral vertigo thing, and then they kind of wake up.
Groundhog's Day. That's the movie. Yeah, very much a Groundhog's Day type game. Yeah.
And so they kind of show this guy in a variety of different situations and how making different choices can get you killed. But even if you die, you go all the way back to the beginning and whatnot. I think that time loops are an excellent gameplay mechanic because they fit into how video games work so well. So, and I think it's a really like solid art style, especially the black and white. It kind of reminds me of like it's not exactly that, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the like the cartoons and Fallout of
the Vault-Tec
Boy. Yeah. So also, I think time loops work really well for mystery games, right? Because you can kind of trial and error your way through stuff as opposed to having to come to the specific conclusions. So
yes,
and that had a release date of Q4, not a full release date, release window, Q4 of this year, and there's a demo out on Steam. Let's see. We also got the launch trailer for a game called Heading Out. I don't know a lot about this one, but I heard it's got pretty good reviews. Another kind of black and white game where you're driving, you're kind of doing a cross-country drive, but then it seems like it's a roguelike where then everything is randomized and there's like you can do different things, you can kind of be different characters, and then you can kind of go different places. I was really excited because when I was watching it, they literally were coming down I-35 to Dallas and trying to get to Laredo. It looks like Laredo was the end of the game, and I was like, "Oh shit,
I know where that's at.
I've been down there." But then in between, it looks like it's got kind of some motion comic stuff. I feel like this is I've seen games that are kind of like this, and I think a lot of it just depends on like how well is it written and how fun is the driving, because it seems like the individual driving is kind of where most of the action of the game is. So,
right.
Yeah. Interesting, though.
Very cool.
Out this week. Let's see. From there, game The Invincible. which was a game based on a Stanislaw Lem novel that they always want you to remember because it's in the title, is getting an update where they're adding some new experiences. This is a science fiction game that came out last year. It's kind of a adventure game. There's like a rover. There's some you can adjust the FOV.
The FOV adjustments.
The FOV adjustments. There's like some ways to go faster in certain areas because it's kind of like a walking simulator. Yeah, but everything I heard from this game made it sound good. I'm wondering if it ever got any real traction, because even in the places where I feel like you would be reading the articles of like, oh man, you got to play this experimental indie game based on a 1960s novel by a Russian author.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard sell sometimes.
Like Stanislaw Lem, I believe, is the guy that wrote Solaris.
Oh my God! Yeah, the Tarkovsky film.
Yeah, and that this is about like a world where like robots have kind of taken over. I don't know. I played a little bit of it with Tessa, and it seemed pretty good. But it's kind of a hard ask for me for these kind of like walk around and figure out what happened to these dead space guys game. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Did I kill him? No. All right. Well, I just want to shoot stuff in video games.
Yeah. Let me shoot stuff.
We also have this really weird early access trailer for Mannequin. This is so weird. This is an online multiplayer VR game that's kind of set in a weird future where you've got like two teams, and one of them is these kind of sci-fi marine guys, and the other is these weird aliens that can turn into mannequins. And then the entire level is full of mannequins that you can blend in with, and your gun for the shooters is also like a detector that can detect where the mannequins are.
This reminds me of a mod, and I believe, is it Counter-Strike or something, where I've seen streamers play it, where they basically can people have played Counter-Strike over and over again, right? And they have all these different things in the environment, like a cone or like different assets.
You talk about prop hunt.
Prop hunt, yes,
yeah.
thank you. That is fascinating, and I love watching people play that. So this is almost like a game completely designed around that mechanic.
It reminds me a lot, too, of the back when Assassin's Creed tried to have multiplayer, and you would have to try to blend in like with the AI, with the computer, even though here, what I'm curious about for this game, though, is if you're playing as one of the weird entities that turns into a mannequin, when you turn into a mannequin, do you have to remain perfectly still because you're playing in VR,
or can you just keep moving,
or does it just lock you in place when you turn still? It seems like an interesting, it's werewolf, right? It's like a or that's not quite werewolf, but it's kind of a weird like multiplayer Slender Man meets Halo game.
Yeah, it is very strange, but it looks like it has some interesting aspects if you're in terms of a multiplayer fan.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird, cool. I don't know. It was an interesting trailer, so I thought I'd throw it in there. Let's see. Speaking of galaxies far, far away in outer space, Fall Guys got a bunch of Star Wars DLC for May the 4th.
Oh.
So if you got the little beans in there, they've got a little Han Solo riding on top of a Millennium Falcon. They got a Chewbacca. They've got a Stormtrooper. They've got a Boba Fett. I don't know if people are still like super playing Fall Guys or not. I feel like it kind of had its time in the sun. I'm sure it's probably got a dedicated fan base that stuck with it. That's probably enough to kind of keep it going. But
yeah, it's probably seen its day.
Yeah. And then let's see from there. Speaking of Fall Guys, they finally announced Sonic Rumble for real.
Your favorite.
Yeah, this is the game that is basically Fall Guys but Sonic. And I actually think this is a good idea because it's like these courses where you're trying to go real fast through them, and people that fall off are eliminated, and everybody gets to be their different dumb Sonic player. I want to be Amy. I want to be Shadow. I want to be fucking the sexy bat.
Oh, that looks like it's running like ass.
Cell phone game. It's a cell phone game. It's a fucking cell phone game. It's a goddamn cell phone game.
Get out of here with this. Get out of here.
Why is it a cell phone game? It looks fun.
It looks fun.
Put it on a console, you guys.
Why did you not lead with that?
Because I was trying to. Because I'm sad and I want everybody else to be sad.
Yeah, I was like, now I'm sad. Thanks, Jeff.
I don't know. If you're a fan of Sonic, you should be used to being sad at this point. So
Jeff wants you to be sad if you're a fan of Sonic.
No, hey, if there was a good Sonic game, I'd love to play it.
Fighting words.
All right, let's wrap it up with a few things here. X Defiant finally gets a release date, and it's this month. So May 21st, Ubisoft's X Defiant is coming out. I know that what you're all saying. I know what you're saying, Mike. What the fuck is X Defiant?
Sure.
X Defiant was Ubisoft's idea to make an Overwatch game, but with characters from all of the Tom Clancy games. So you can be like a Rainbow Six operator, or a Division agent, or a Splinter Cell Marine, and it's like, guys,
you don't have the fucking characters to do this.
Yeah. Also, this isn't the way to do that. Like the Tom Clancy verse, they made that whole Captain Laserhawk Netflix show. You could have like Ezio and Rayman and Sam Fisher, and that would be the way to go. But like, or
maybe just like figure out a way to bring in like James Bond or like Tom Cruise. I don't know. You don't have who the fuck? Steve Fisher is about the only character I know from Tom Clancy because
Sam Fisher.
There you go. See, I don't even know the name. Like, there's just you can't do it with that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I could tell you the name of the main character in the Division, and you would have no idea who I'm talking about. And also, the Division doesn't have a main character because you make your own character.
You make your own character,
like you do in every other game.
Yeah.
And so, like, you don't have characters. Also, Ubisoft, maybe stay in your fucking lane. Quit trying to do everything.
We want to do a Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, exactly. They do. It's called Brawlhalla. They made their own Super Smash Brothers. Yeah. Let's see. Game Pass is getting some fun stuff coming up. The last year's Lords of the Fallen is coming, and also a game called Sniper Ghost Warriors Contract 2 is coming. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts, I think, is an amazing franchise that everybody should play. It's a weird open world blasting dudes game that has the same mechanic from Sniper Elite, where when you shoot, it follows your bullet all the way into the person's brain and out the other side. So
that is rad.
Michael and I played it, I think, for like a Patreon video. Is incredibly violent. It's kind of well made. It's like an open world game where you can like snipe people from like a mile away, and it's pretty fun. So if it's on Game Pass and you got Game Pass, go check it out.
Check it out.
Let's see. Dragon Age Dreadwolf is probably going to be here before spring of 2025. This is EA doing earnings call things where they had several unnamed games coming out before the end of the fiscal year, which is March of next year. And based on what we know from their development cycles, Dragon Age is almost certainly one of those. So while not a confirmation,
pretty damn close
deduction.
Yeah.
So, let's see. From there were some tweets out that make it seem like the Talos Principle 2 is going to have a brand new expansion coming soon. They just had a kind of little teaser showing off a level that isn't in the game, and so probably some expansion content. I don't even know what the Talos Principle is, but some people seem to like it a lot, so I thought I would tell them.
Throw it in there.
People got so mad at Bryce and me when we played this game. This game on the Switch called Master Detective Archives Raincode that's made by the guy that made Danganronpa. I don't know if you've ever danged any Rampas.
I haven't danged any Rampas in my time.
Danganronpa, incredibly beloved kind of social deduction game RPG where a bunch of students get kidnapped by a homicidal robot bear and locked in a school. Like you do.
Damn, Tuesday for me.
And then every quarter you have to like decide who's going to die of all the people. And there was like a murderer, so you're trying to figure out who the murderer is, and the class votes.
Hot damn, this sounds like a craziness.
Anyway, weird stuff. That same guy, he came out with his new thing, Master Detective Archives Raincode. A bunch of people who are all master detectives of different disciplines find themselves together. And the main character is like a ghost detective, and he's hooked up to this kind of little weird ghost blobby guy that turns into a big sexy lady. It came out on the Switch. We played it. It took so long to get going that we stopped apparently right before the game got good, and then we're like, I don't know, it doesn't seem very good.
Yeah.
But one of the problems with the game was that it didn't run very well, and so now it's coming out on modern consoles and PC. So
maybe another chance at life.
Yeah, and that's going to be happening. I don't know. There's actually, is there a May 9th? No,
July.
More
18th.
information. Oh yeah, there we go. July 18th. So, oh my God, you guys, I'm so tired. GTA 6 added several slots to their website.
More screenshots incoming.
For screenshots and a release date. Briefly, they updated the CSS to put blank placeholders for stuff. And then, of course, this is Grand Theft Auto 6. People saw it. They were like,
oh, we gotta go.
There's going to be new screenshots. There's going to be new screenshots.
Tell your mom, tell your dad, we gotta go.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then let's see. Nintendo is bringing back the Nintendo World Championships.
That's awesome.
There were 3 of those. But then the thing about the new ones is that so Nintendo World Championship is like a series of tiny NES levels that you kind of do specific challenges on to see who can do them the fastest and the most accurately. They're releasing this as a package for everybody. So it's going to be an online thing where every week it updates with new challenges. And everybody can log in. You can challenge your friends. You can do stuff. You can go for the world record and whatnot. I think this is a great idea for this.
It also gives life back to old games.
Yeah. It used to be like an in-person thing. Like it started off as an in-person thing. And then also what's kind of crazy is that they're putting out a physical version of it. Like you can order, it's in a big box and it comes with the game.
That is specifically because the old school, gold
it's got a replica of the gold cart.
That's just collector fucking bullshit right there. And I'll probably be getting one.
The most expensive, the most expensive NES cart in the wild.
Of all time.
Because there's only a dozen of them in the world or something like that. So also comes the pins and a bunch of little cards with the different games that are on there.
Fine, shut up and take my money.
I was actually thinking I might actually buy this one just because I was thinking it would be interesting to have it, but I was also thinking I'm just going to buy that thing and I'm just going to put it on a shelf. I know they're going to make I know they're not going to make a lot of them.
It's going to be so pretty.
I'm not going to take it out of the shrink wrap. And I'm going to sell it in 20 years when there's only...
The NES replica game pack is not playable? Oh, come on.
Yeah, it's not an actual playable game. But this is an interesting thing. It's coming
July is what it looks like.
Yeah. I'm just going to say yes because I'm too tired to look. Let's see. Let's wrap it up with a few quick things. There was a prototype Super Nintendo that was on a bidding website. I still don't know how the fuck this shit happens with all this collector stuff. This thing was apparently at one point going for what was it?
The resale market, $3.2 million.
$3.2 million. I mean, this does make a certain amount of sense because this is a prototype.
Yeah, this is a one-time thing. Yeah, but
apparently they had to close the sale because there was just too much fraud happening around it. But I don't know. This is I hate to sound like Indiana Jones, but can't you guys put this shit in a fucking museum somewhere?
I'm sorry, it showed up on Yahoo Auctions?
Yes.
In what year did this happen?
Did you know that Yahoo.com still exists?
No.
The main difference here with this Famicom, because a Japanese Super Famicom, red power button, and then it's got an expansion port, a couple of expansion ports,
like a serial
for development.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy. Oh, it also had a headphone jack.
3.5 jack.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So, all right, time for some fun stuff. My God. They're putting out this Star Wars. It's like a little Star Destroyer set from Lego.
Oh, it's Star Wars Gunpla.
Yeah, they've got a bunch last week that they announced. They've got the Ultimate Collector TIE Interceptor. They've got a little Darth Maul's ship. They've got it's like a diorama of the pod racing. But one of the big things for gaming is that they're putting out this Star Destroyer set that opens up, and it's got a bunch of minifigs of Darth Vader and stuff, but it's also got a Cal Kestis minifig
from the series.
Jedi Survivor. Yeah. So it's one of the first places that you can actually get a Cal Kestis thing, which is pretty fun.
Nice.
So let's see from there. Oh, speaking of Star Wars, this is pretty fun. Star Wars had a backpack with Yoda in it, right? So for May the 4th, backpack, Yoda was in it. I think he did some animations. He would look around. It turns out they had to delist that along with a few other things because apparently if you were wearing this backpack and you did the emote from Zoidberg where he puts the claws up and goes back and forth, the Yoda in the backpack would just flip out. Like it would get all these weird polygons would start coming off of it.
Whoa!
And then if you did it twice, like this is a video,
crashed the game,
crashed the entire game to desktop and crashes the server.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
QA testing.
Well, I don't know, man. They've got so many.
I know. That's
things.
like, yeah. I get that. That's not that much of a game-breaking bug.
Yeah, and like Fortnite's pretty responsive to this, so it's like they immediately took it down and they were just like, yeah, we'll put it back up in a minute. It's not the first time that some combination of dumbass dance and bullshit in Fortnite has caused the game to crash. And last but not least, we don't talk about Unreal enough. Somebody put the best mod for Elden Ring, which is called Capybara Island, and it just turns your horse into a capybara, and it puts a bunch of capybaras in the land.
Yeah.
It takes all the goats and the sheep and stuff and replaces them all with capybaras. And that fucking rules.
Elden Capybaras.
Capybara Ring. It also replaces like the loading screen with just like pictures of capybaras. So, yep. Go check it out if you're on the PC. And with that, I'm barely able to coherently make a sentence.
We did it.
We did it. It is done. Oh, man. Blake, tell them where they can find you.
I'm going to be in bed soon. No. You can find me over at patreon.com/junkfoodcinema. We have a Discord over there as well. So if you like movies and other things, come join us and make sure you join RageSelect as always. And yes, I just love being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anytime. With that, I am not going to bed. I'm going to start drinking beer because
anime.
I've been waiting. It's anime time. It's nice outside. It's time for animes. That's what I'm going to do. So get out of my house. Get out. Also, I'll see you next time. Bye.